Yo, man, we're just a few more days removed from the Super Bowl, Super Bowl weekend, and Teofimo Lopez finds himself fighting on Thursday, man. Actually, all right, just making sure my mic is not muted. So Teofimo is gonna be fighting Jermaine Ortiz, and this is gonna be a really good. I like the undercard, man. It's got Emiliano Vargas fighting on it. You have Abdullah Mason fighting on it as well. Two amazing prospects. I believe Mason's better than Emiliano. I also feel, well, I don't feel, I know a few of the fighters that he's fought, like Angel Rebollar, guys like fought some dudes that I know of in around our town, right? And Justin the Stallion Cardona. So he's fighting again. And Emiliano really hasn't fought nobody to really show him any resistance. You know, every single fighter that he's supposed to fight, he's supposed to knock out. Whereas Abdullah Mason, similar to Tiger Johnson, very early on, they're already being tested by tough fighters. In fact, that kid, Angel Rebollar, if he doesn't quit and he continues to fight in his career, he might be the next Luis Venado Lopez, a fighter that's tough, that if he fixes his craft and tries to master it, his toughness, his grit, his resiliency, it's going to take him a long ways. And he probably will come out on top as a champion as long as he makes the right coaching adjustments and learns from his mistakes, right? That kid Rebollar has only lost like 2, 3 times, but the people that he's lost to are fighters like Abdullah Mason, right? That look to be the part. Whereas guys like Mark Castro, and I'm not trying to dismiss and say that they're overrated, but guys like Mark Castro, guys like Emiliano Vargas, Amado Vargas, they're not really fighting any top competitors. But, that's the undercard for this weekend. Then you have, of course, Keyshawn Davis fighting Jose Pedraza. I want to say that Keyshawn Davis is a little bit overrated as well, but he's more or less fought some battle-tested veterans, and he's come out on top, pretty much damn near dominating and or winning all of his rounds. But, man, as a betting man, I do like the odds that are presented with Jose. When I look at fighters like Jose Ramirez, Chon Zepeda, and plenty of others, they haven't knocked out Jose Pedraza, who moved up from 126 when he fought Tank Davis. Tank Davis is the only guy that's knocked him out. Jose Ramirez couldn't do it. Joan Cepeda couldn't do it. Arnold Barbosa couldn't knock down. And Jose Pedraza was there. So if Keyshawn Davis were somehow to knock out Pedraza, that would speak volumes. But I don't really see that happening. I think Pedraza will outbox Keyshawn Davis. I think Keyshawn Davis is very stiff. He has good punches, but he's a little slow. You can tell that he does pack a big punch, but he is robotic. And Jose Pedraza, if he's able to get in there and just work, and he hasn't, quote unquote, aged overnight or became a bought fighter in the sense that, he's going to sell out, Jose Pedraza should beat Keyshawn Davis over this weekend. Now, as we go into the main event, you got Teofimo versus Jermaine Ortiz. Jermaine Ortiz could beat Teofimo Lopez, but he can't just think that he's going to walk Teo down. That'll be his biggest mistake. And if he starts out boxing like his name is, the technician, and circle out and let Teo try to come out all aggressive, then he can land and have a lot of success, right? I mean, it's not out of the stretch of impossibility that if George Kambosos can go 12, and if he can beat Teofimo Lopez, so can Jermaine Ortiz. But Jermaine Ortiz has to be extremely disciplined because in his last fight, he didn't look so good. And I know he's coming off a layoff, and I know he was coming off an injury, and he didn't make weight. So all of those things are no excuses coming into the Teo fight. He's coming off being active. He's moving up in weight, and he's not coming off an injury. It's going to be a very interesting fight. Teo might find himself in a little bit of trouble. Yo, what's going on? Boxing with Frank Bay. Keyshawn is a hype job for sure. Man, I agree. I agree. But Pedraza is super washed. Now, I don't agree with that. I think actually Pedraza is really good. And I think it starts with this Thursday. If he starts off by beating Keyshawn Davis, who I don't think is better than those three fighters that I named that are been career 140 pounders. Pedraza should be that much better. Tio is surprising a 7-1 favorite. Look, man, he was a 13-1 favorite of George Kambosos too, and he got beat. Now, if we're being fair, Teofimo Lopez's fight against George Kambosos was continuously being postponed. I think like 4 times when he was trying to fight with Triller, right? Triller outbid everybody basically like 3 to 4 to 1. You know, the second highest bidder being Eddie Hearn. Triller kept postponing the date. They were fighting on a Sunday and on Monday and on Wednesday on different months. And I'm pretty sure Tio had to continuously make weight, and it was draining him. I'm not saying that was the excuse, but there was a lot of unprofessionalism on behalf of Triller because tickets weren't selling and they weren't going to get a return of investment because they overpaid and overvalued the Teofimo experience. Long story short, I'm not saying that was one of the biggest factors, but Teofimo said that he had air in his lungs and all of these things. Maybe it was because of overtraining or whatever the case may be. But yeah, he was a 13 or 14-1 against George Kambosos, a person who looked terrible against Mickey Bey and in multiple fights. Probably lost to Mickey Bey, but nevertheless, Tio's best is when you have low expectations of him, right? Let Tio just outshine and prove you wrong, right? But when he becomes the favored, I don't know, man. He doesn't look so good, right? He was underdog against Loma. He was underdog against Josh Taylor. He looked exceptional in those fights. He was favored against that Japanese fighter that was extremely tall. Tio also struggles with tall fighters. So as a betting man, I do like Pedraza, Emiliano, Abdullah Mason, and Jermaine Ortiz to win over the weekend. $10 might win you 500. Everybody's got $10. But Vince Vargas, salute to you, brother. Thursday, I need to hurry up and get home. Yeah, man, you're gonna have to hurry up and get home, man. Obviously, be safe. This California weather with this rain and the falling of the trees and this wind, bro. The wind is what was toppling things over. You got to be careful, man. So you can always replay the fights. So safety first, man. Like my mom says, it's better to lose a second of your life than it is to lose your life in a second. So just be home safe. You can always have that replay value, rewind it just a little bit, and you catch on and watch Emiliano Vargas, man. Boxing with Frank Bay goes, come on, man, what you doing? Boxing with Frank goes, Tio and his dad fucked up trying to make it pay-per-view and saying it was going to do 2 million pay-per-view buys. Yeah, man. They just thought, man, they were riding just because I beat Lomachenko. I'm going to become this pay-per-view star. And that's one of the biggest fallacies that boxing athletes or fighters that have a lot of momentum think just because you do numbers on regular TV where it's free, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you are a pay-per-view attraction, right? You need to attract the people's attention. You ain't going to do it with George Kambosos. Teofimo Lopez might do it with a Shakur, with a Terrence Bud Crawford, with a Devin Haney, but you can't think you're going to be a pay-per-view star. Like, your opponent matters, and how the opponent sells the fight matters. For example, Caleb Plant did an extremely great job of selling that pay-per-view fight with Canelo Alvarez. They pushed each other. They threw blows. That's great promotion. You want that type of animosity. He was very witty with his trash talk as well, addressing the fans, addressing the boos. We're talking about Caleb Plant here. So the opponent, your adversary, the risk, the gift of gab, all of that stuff builds up, the face off, the face down. All of these things matter. And Tio and George Kambosos, they didn't do that good of a job. Afterwards, it was fantastic, but I don't really remember the buildup of those two being exceptional. In fact, the one with Devin Haney and George Kambosos was actually pretty good. When George Kambosos was calling Devin Haney a rat. I mean, that made a lot of sense. It's like, bro, how are you going to be, your own American and going against Teofimo Lopez and spilling all these secrets, But anyway, Truly Trey goes, yes. Hey, shout out to you, Truly Trey. Thank you guys for tuning in, right? So this Thursday, man, stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of very interesting fights on the Super Bowl weekend to build up for this fantastic weekend. Obviously, go Niners, but Mahomes has that Tom Brady clutch gene where it don't matter if you have 11 all pros on that defensive side. He's going to make his throws. He's going to make plays. He's going to make diving baseball like Derek Jeter submarine throws and hit his receivers on the face. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough to beat that team. It's going to be tough to beat Mahomes. Obviously, I've talked about it in the past. We have like 7 first rounders on that defensive side of the ball. Every single one of them has to play at the end of the whistle, sideline to sideline football, and with a relentless, passion unknown to mankind, like Jim Harbaugh says. Because the last couple of weeks, we haven't been doing that. But I don't want to talk about football, man. I want to talk about what happened over the weekend. Look, I try to tune in as much boxing as I possibly can. Whether it's on Showtime, ESPN, Golden Boy Cards, or The Zone, or Triller, or Black Prime, wherever boxing is at, I try to watch it. Whether it's in Australia or in the UK, I try to watch it. Canadian, sports in Canada, I try to watch it as well when it comes down to boxing. And Connor Benn, I would say this about Connor Benn, man. I just think that he needs to slow his roll. Obviously a lot of people look at him as food, right? You got Devin Haney and his pops going overseas or calling him out. You have fighters like Tank Davis trying to ride the momentum. But the reality is, I don't believe them. And I don't mean by Devin Haney is like, I don't believe Tank Davis. I don't believe Tank Davis because this is the same man. When George Kambosos beat Teofimo Lopez, Tank Davis was like, man, I'll fight that. Man, fuck the belts. I'll fight that dude over there. And he never did. He never did. To this day, he hasn't fought Lomachenko, Devin Haney, Shakur, Teofimo, or George Kambosos. I don't believe Tank Davis, right? So when it comes down to him moving up another 7 more pounds and fighting a Connor Benn over there at the UK or, in Saudi Arabia, I just don't believe you, Tank. You're probably realistically looking to fight the winner of Rolly versus Pitbull Cruz. More than likely, Pitbull will win. You'll fight him, and there'll be, a WBA 135 championship belt on the line. I think that's what Tank's looking to do. Because if not, he would have fought, last month. I mean, why not? You haven't fought since you knocked out Ryan Garcia. So then all of a sudden, I'm going to expect you to move up 7, 10 pounds. If your last fight was at 35, 12 pounds to go and fight Connor Benn because Connor Benn didn't look so good against, Pistol Pete Dobson. Look, man, Dobson is a really good fighter. He wasn't undefeated 16-0 for no reason. The only biggest problem was he was inactive. If Peter Dobson was active, he beats Connor Benn on Saturday. But the fact that he was inactive and his last fight was in 2022, that takes a toll out of a fighter, in terms of being sharp, getting out that ring rust, working on certain things. He maybe was, from the reports, he also had 5 weeks of preparation. So when you take all into consideration, he hasn't fought since 2022. Yeah, I think everybody should expect Connor Benn to be treated as food. Like, it's like, okay, bro, like you've looked pedestrian, very human-like in your last couple of fights ever since, okay, we'll give you that fight that you had against the tough Mexican in your last fight because you were, coming off a hiatus, you were coming off, lawsuits, and you were trying to attack the powers that be, the BBOC, promotions, drug testing agencies. You're investing a lot of money trying to, bring back a clean slate to your name, right? Getting absolved from all those, like, I don't know, crimes, if that's what they want to do, since they want to strip your license. So yeah, I can give you that fight, but there was no excuse this Saturday. All right, you were fighting a guy with a amazing unblemished record of 16-0, right? But he hadn't fought since 2022. So why couldn't you get the KO? So I think that's what Connor Benn has to realize and just slow your roll a little bit, Don't get caught up into these Americans, even though I'm American myself and I support these guys, because I don't really believe them. Devin Haney, to my knowledge, has only traveled once, and that was to George Kambosos for all the titles on the line, right? I don't expect him to fight a big puncher in Connor Benn in the UK with no titles on the line. Like, why would Devin do that, right? Devin could do big numbers fighting a Jerome Boots Ennis, for example. But I did like what Connor Benn said, and that was to fight, or when he called out Mario Barrios. That's a really good fight. I would actually favor Mario Barrios to beat Connor Benn, especially the last Connor Benn that we've seen in the last 2 fights. Mario Barrios ain't one to like sleep on. You know what I mean? Like he's very tall, he's tough. I mean, you saw that he can take a punch and multiple times to get knocked down. You know, he's very crafty. I don't know if he's still training with Virgil Hunter, but he comes from a world school of boxing trainers. And Mario Barrios has momentum beating Yordenis Ugas, who's light years ahead of experience and that much of a better boxer and a bigger boxer, because Yordenis Ugas is a big dude, then Connor Benn. But to your guys' point, Truly Trey and boxing with Frank, Ben is very athletic, you know, but I'd rather develop fighters than I am to develop athletes. In this, especially in the sport of boxing, like the last two fighters that Connor Benn has fought, they're boxers, they're fighters. They're not that great athletes. Ben is getting away beating these guys because of his athleticism. Now, I'm not going to say ever since he's popped dirty and there's been intricate drug testing involved in his career, but he don't look the same. You know, his speed don't look the same. His combination punches look good. Maybe it's the Everlast gloves that he's sponsored with. For a big puncher, I don't really understand this, but I wouldn't consider myself a big puncher, but I hit pretty hard. At least that's what people told me. And I never liked using Everlast gloves. I need like, you know, MX gloves. I need Cleto Reyes because I want to really feel when my knuckles in my fist, they hit the bag. Like I want to feel that shit. I don't want padding. And I feel like Everlast and Rival gloves have a lot of padding. Now, for chain purposes, yeah, you know, you want a lot of padding so you don't injure your hands. But man, there's something about that leather from Cleto Reyes that feels really good. And I've been a big fan of Canelo's gloves, right? The no boxing, no life. It feels really good when I hit the bag on both hands. It's just a little bit on my forearms. It's a little tight right there. And I need a little bit of wiggle room, right, so to speak. But anyway, I don't know why Connor Benn uses Everlast gloves. You know, he should have signed a deal or a sponsorship with another company because, I mean, not a shit all over Everlast, but I don't really rate their gloves that high. Yo, Truly Trey, salute to you, man. I appreciate those kind of words, man. I'm glad, you know, we just kind of go off the top. Actually, let me see if Speed and Drew are here. Actually, no, they're not. Boxing with Frank Bay goes, Ben is very average. His best attribute is his athleticism. Yeah, I agree. And when he gets walked down, man, you got to bring your hands up to your face and your chin down. You're getting hit with a lot of right hands from Pistol Pete Dobson. And if that's another big puncher, man, he going to rock you. Social media is cooking Ben, saying he is mad sus since he's liking his power after popping dirty. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, that's as much as I can say. It's fair criticism. It's fair play. You know, all of a sudden he knocks guys out like Samuel Vargas, guys knocks out guys like Chris Algieri, and then all of a sudden, who are much better fighters than the last two fighters that Connor Benn has fought, and much more. They were much more active. And all of a sudden, since he's popped dirty, man, like you almost got to go back in history and just be like, you know what, man, I got to put an asterisk or a no contest to all of those fights because like I just don't believe Connor Benn, man. You know, you talk about trying to fight Chris Eubank Jr., but I gotta see it to believe it, man. I gotta see it to believe it because a lot of these guys talk, and I know that they want to lambaste Chris Eubank Jr., but at least and say that he's, you know, scared and he overpriced himself. But Chris Eubanks is he's being active. He got knocked out by Liam Smith, and guess what? Immediately he took the rematch. You know, he didn't have to wait a year. He didn't have to have an in-between fight. No, he just hired Bomac as a trainer, made his adjustments after leaving Roy Jones Jr., and guess what he did? He beat and stopped Liam Smith. So just a little decision making that you have to do, just switching camps, and then boom, you're completely new, reinvigorated fighter with a lot of momentum. I can't call Chris Eubank that P word that they like to throw around so loosely. Truly Trey goes, and even Ben's athletic ability is good, and it's not best. It's not elite at all. Absolutely, man. But I would say this: if Devin Haney were to fight Connor Benn, that would be a very intriguing, interesting fight. Mainly because of the reason that Devin right now is really interested in playing the pound for pound game. I know a lot of the reports was like in the rehydration, he weighed 159 over over Regis Prograis, but Connor Benn is probably going to rehydrate as well up to like 162. I mean, Connor Benn is really massive. He's big, but he's short. And then because of his athleticism and his ability to really lunge, he fights even shorter because he squats really low. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. I don't think it would be wise for Devin Haney to go to 147 and campaign there. I just feel like, bro, you got a lot of fair players at 140, right? You can try to unify with Teofimo. You can try to fight the winner of Pitbull Cruz versus Rolly. Or, as the reports come out, Leon Paro versus Subriel Matias. Like, that's a very interesting fight. I'm not going to lie to you, man. If I'm not mistaken, Leon Paro trains or, has some times of his camp with Freddie Roach at the Wildcard Gym. And he's Australian. And a lot of these Australian fighters that, we actually are privy to, like a Sam Goodman who just beat Reece Salim in the undercard of George Gamposas, if I'm not mistaken, or the undercard of Tim Tszyu. My correction. Guys like that we hear that are from Australia, they're all pretty fucking tough over there. So Leon Paro just beat Montana Love and knocked him out. He's got a lot of momentum. He's active. I could see him in the Southpaw stands beat Subriel Matias. In fact, I'm very excited for that fight and what the odds come out. You know what I mean? Because I think Leon Paro can pull the upset. He looks to be fast. He's southpaw. He's got good legs. It looks like he's got good punch resistance. Now, I don't know if he can handle Subriel Matias' combination punches and inside game because Matias is really good. I'm not going to lie. I am a fan of him. I like I like who he's beaten, a lot of undefeated fighters. And I like his activity, not just to always compete, but how he goes about never giving you a boring moment in the fights. But I would say this. He has yet to fight a pound-for-pound fighter. He's yet to fight an ex-champion. All of those guys that he's fought, Dergashev, the last Eastern European fighter, Jeremiah Sponson from Argentina that was 33-0. All of these guys that he's fought, they've never been champions. And if you really go down and dive into their careers, right? Jeremiah Sponce having 31 wins at the time that he lost to, Subriel Matias and having 22 knockouts out of Argentina. A lot of his resume, our guys were like 19 wins and 11 losses, 10 wins and 20 losses. That's who the guys that Jeremiah Sponce was knocking out. And he quits after 5 or 6 rounds. Right, against Matias. So I don't really know how good Jeremiah Sponce really is. The guy Malik Hawkins, who was also like 16-0 when he fought Subriel Matias, he hasn't really beaten a lot of good guys either. And he just lost to Richardson Hitchens back in 2021 and hasn't fought since. And in fact, if you look at a lot of these fighters, that Subriel Matias has faced, they've pretty much been inactive since that loss to Matias. Now you could be like, well, that's a testament to how good Subriel Matias is, that he makes these fighters rethink their careers and their lives. But it also lets me know that these guys weren't or don't have that championship mentality to continue after taking a loss, right? Because the old adage of boxing is not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And a lot of those fighters that Subriel Matias has fought haven't continued their careers. I don't want to list a few names because I could be wrong, because if I'm not mistaken, he actually has a body on his resume where one of the fighters actually was put into a coma, then he died. So I don't want to be insensitive. I'm just saying that Subriel Matias might be a little overrated in terms of people just trying to anoint him as the best 140-pounder, when I think it's a little bit disrespectful when you have guys like Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez that have done fought pound for pound or been champions at the lower weight class, became undisputed, and they continue to show their dominance at 140, right? So I can't really anoint Subriel Matias and put him as this pound for pound great fighter over guys like Teofimo and Devin, because Devin and Teo over time have done it. Not in one weight class, but in multiple, and been lenient in multiple weight classes as well. So you still got to put like Teo and Devin above Subriel Matias for those factors that Matias has never fought an ex-champion. And a lot of the fighters, I question how good those fighters really are. But that's neither here nor there, right? I don't want to make this a Matia slander because I am a fan, and maybe he is the boogeyman. We don't really know how tricky these politicians in the sport of boxing are when it come down to the negotiation table. They can be very witty and really use some leaks of information that they know and manipulate the masses and the boxing fans because we're not privy to all the details. Ward Speed, salute to you, man. I sent you and Drew. Oh, you're in. I sent you and Drew the link so you guys can hop in. Let's see. War Speed salutes Vince Vargas, Trudy Trey, and Boxing with Frank Bay. Vince goes, Emiliano fights on March 29th. Wow, 2 days after my birthday, brother. Bottom of the flyer has Top Rank, Golden Boy, and Marv Nation fighting in Arizona. Yeah, interesting, man. Yeah, Emiliano Vargas, if I'm not mistaken, also fights this Thursday. So for him to have a fight this Thursday and all of a sudden on March 29th, that's a quick turnaround. That almost lets me know that Emiliano's going to win by KO. So, yeah. Boxing with Frank goes, it's the eye test, Ricky. Subriel is the real deal. Yeah, no, I agree, man. He's, I like Subriel. I love his inside fighting. I haven't seen a fighter with that style in actually in a really long time. I know he, like Robert Duran, has those type of movements in terms of inside fighting game, especially how he parries the shots and rolls always in the pocket. But who does he remind me of, man? I'm trying to figure it out. I forgot what fighter used to do what Subriel Matias did. Boom, 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 boom. Like a fucking Antonio Margarito, bro. Felix Trinidad. Nah, I don't think Felix Trinidad did that. What's going on, Drew? I don't think Felix Trinidad did that. I remember Felix Trinidad always being kind of like an outside fighter, jabs and left hooks, right? Like he had like big ass shoulders. Nah, just kidding. I look, man, I don't know, but there's a fighter that he reminds me of that always did that, fight a lot on the inside, and throws like a flurry of combinations. But it could be Antonio Margarito, but I gotta do a little bit of research of who the trainer is of Subriel Matias. I know he's this Mexican, and I wonder what's that trainer's history, and then I can probably pinpoint it. But he is very unique. Yeah, man, I agree. Man, bro, that's gonna eat me up if I can't find out who he reminds me of. Yeah, maybe Antonio Margarito. I want to say that. Except Margarito just had a high guard. Matias actually bends at the waist, comes forward, and he smothers the punches, and he parries a lot of the shots. But yeah. Anyway, let me deviate a little, from that sidebar because when I'm stuck on a topic and I can't find the answer to it, I'll just ponder in 10 minutes of silence, and I know you guys just aren't going to stand for that. Let's see. Vince goes, I don't think he's fighting on Thursday. Haven't heard anything or sent any hype videos by his props. By Senior. Yeah, interesting, man. Yeah, you might be right. I actually haven't let me see. I haven't really checked on the social media. I know that he came out on the betting website that I use is Bovada, and he was on there along with Abdullah Mason. But yeah, Drew goes, he's very unique. Vince goes, salute War Speed. Put it this way, Haney Ortiz could outbox Matias, but he will put life-changing beatings on them or anyone. Can anyone check the undercard for this Thursday? Yeah, let me check
Yeah,
out it on my
I'll do that for you, homie. So no, he's not fighting. And none of the Vargas, in fact, are going to be fighting on this Thursday's Teofimo Lopez versus Jermaine Ortiz undercard. We do have Keyshawn Davis fighting Jose Pedraza, and what should be a true test to Keyshawn Davis's ability to climb up the ranks and test himself against a proven name, former champion, and very durable, crafty individual, and Jose Pedraza. In fact, that's going to be probably a very challenging fight for Keyshawn Davis. We do have Mr. George Acosta taking on Rene Teles Guiron. 17-1 record for Mr. Acosta, and Teles Guiron an 18-3. So that should live up to be quite a good hard fought scrap right there. And of course, who you consider to be the next Terence Crawford type individual, or at least from the new bunch. Abdullah Mason, young fella there, taking on Benjamin Gourmet, who has a record of 8-0 and 3 draws, where Mason has 11-0. But no Vargas here. We do have Charlie Sheehy, Abdel Ceseda taking on each other, and furthermore, Javier Martinez, Raul Solomon, Alan Garcia, Tomas Ornelas. And it's a pretty stacked card, homie. It just keeps on going. We do have Cepedas, Riley's, Barrera, Portales. The names go on and on. But as far as answering the question, yes, Mr. Vince Vargas is absolutely correct. And I would never question Mr. Vince Vargas. If he says no Vargas is fighting, no Vargas is fighting. Why? Because Mr. Vince Vargas is a true hardcore fan of the Vargas dynasty.
Yeah,
Homie Ricky.
absolutely. He
Hmm.
was supposed to schedule because on the website it has Emiliano Vargas fight Tomas Ornelas, and then you just
Oh,
told me
okay.
that Ornelas is fighting on the undercard, but he's fighting against you just named his name. Where's Ornelas?
Mhm.
Where is Alan Garcia? So Alan Garcia, who's 10-0, he's fighting Ornelas instead of Emiliano. So they probably had a scheduling conflict or something. But yeah. And then I don't want to bypass that gentleman that you named, Charlie Sheehy versus
Mhm.
Abdel Salceda. Charlie is really good, man. He's really good. He looks, I think he's from the Bay Area, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's from San Francisco. He's really good. So watch out for Charlie Sheehy. Um, Anyway, you were gonna say something, brother?
Yeah, no, first off, I just wanted to thank you again, once again, and here comes my long 10-minute introduction, I guess. But thank you very much, homie Ricky, for allowing me to hop in another one of these very lively lives with the intelligent people such as our dedicated listeners, which I can say that we are starting to grow as a channel. And I hope that that has to do with the fact that we are unbiased, honest, and we want to just grow the sport. We don't want to divide based off any kind of stupid things like nationality or color or race or language. So if you feel the same way and you just want to talk boxing, irrespective of what the person looks like across or what their sex is, welcome aboard. And I would like to say good even fall to one and all. And that would, of course, include boxing with Frank Bay. First time seeing you around here, Mr. Frank Bay. I hope we see more of you here. Welcome on board the Homie Ricky podcast. Mr. Vince Vargas. Mr. Vargas, we missed you in the last live. I
Yes, we
noticed that
did,
you weren't
man.
there. You weren't there, and that hurt my heart. That hurt my but I hope that you were surrounded by family and friends and just loving moments, enjoying the best of your life. And like I say, the sport of boxing will be here today, tomorrow, but the good times with family and friends, that's never promised. Truly, Trey, once again, sir, thank you for coming on board and listening in to us. Drew123, whenever you're ready, hop on. But thank you very much for inviting me here once again, homie Ricky. And yeah, no, I think this Thursday night fight is going to be exciting. It looks to be chock full of very good names, very good competitive cards. At least when it comes to the record, and that's really what we can ask for, right? We can ask for a fighter to take on somebody who has a similar record because that means that there really is no disadvantages. So I think this Thursday is going to live up to the hype. One of those very unique fight nights where we don't have to have an excuse for ducking any of these fights, right? Because on Saturday we might want to do something funner like mountain bike, fix old cars, or whatnot. But on Thursday, as soon as you touch down from work, just find the nicest, most comfortable spot in your couch that's contoured to your behind. Sit there, pop up in your Mexican Coca Cola or your jarritos, and enjoy it. So, I hope that's what it lives up to be, homie. And yes, I agree with you. Subriel Matias, I, I'm still I'm still wanting to see more of him. Right? No disrespect to this obviously incredibly talented, powerful fighter who is very action packed, but he has won his belt on a vacancy. So there's always a condition of how a champion attains a belt to start off with, and he has amassed the last few fights that he's had a record of 105 to 2 losses on the last 6 fights of the men's that he's taken on. For the most part, undefeated champions who obviously have great records similar to him and maybe even better, at least numerically. But I'm not trying to discredit the man. I'm just saying when you talk greatness at any weight class, you cannot overlook the men that have tested himself and proven themselves, like Mr. Young, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor. We cannot say that Matthias is the man to beat when we have all those other guys who have definitely better records and have been better tested than that gentleman. But I will say this: whoever steps up to Matthias is going to get my respect for soft, because there's probably easier fights than one of the hardest punchers in the sport of boxing currently. But it seems that we will see Mr. Liam Paro from Australia, a very highly skilled southpaw, who's moving very similar to Matthias in the sense that he's taking on some good names, and I can't wait to see that fight.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. That's one of the fights that there's been 2 fights of the year that I'm extremely looking forward to, man. It's Junto Nakatani versus Alejandro Santiago, and then now Leon Paro versus Subriel Matias. Don't get me wrong, this Thursday night fights, I'm looking forward to it, but it's not one of those fights where I'm rubbing my hands, you know. But I could, like, no disrespect, I'm a big fan of Teofimo Lopez. I just feel like with Jermaine Ortiz, I got to see it on a consistent basis, because on one end he looks amazing, right? He's giving Lomachenko a good run for his money. He's knocking out and bloodying up Jamel Herring, and then there's fights in between. I'm just like, damn, bro. Like, we talked about this in the past, where he's like 160 pounds and he's fighting guys at a 135. So I'm like, are you winning because you're big, or are you good because you got the skills? Now we're gonna find out against Teofimo Lopez. So, I gotta see it to believe it. I think Teofimo in this interview right here on Fight Hub says the same thing too. He's like, look, man, Jermaine Ortiz can say all the things that he wants, but he's got to show me. And that's kind of where I'm at the stage as well with like Jermaine Ortiz. He might look to be the goods, but against, I think his last name was Antonio Moran, he didn't look so great. He was getting rocked. He was on shaky legs. Sometimes was put on Queer Street, and then you're like, damn, bro, this dude might lose. And that's against a guy named Antonio Moran, if I'm not mistaken, who Devin Haney knocked out. There's like this hilarious, I don't know, Instagram reel where he loops and throws this haymaker forward, and he hits Antonio's face, and it spins like 360, like 5 times. It's hilarious. And it's a hilarious edit. Maybe I'll try to find it and then I'll post it up here so you guys can laugh. But that's the guy that was giving Jermaine Ortiz a run for his life. So I gotta see
what? Really?
I think. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. Let me see. Even if his name is Antonio Moran. Yeah.
While you're looking for that. While you're looking for that.
He just fought up a pro box card on Wednesday of last week against Romero Duno, who he knocked him out.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's right. While you're looking for that little reel or whatever, homie, I would just say this to Mr. Vince Vargas. I'm not too sure if you noticed, Mr. Vargas, but if you look at my icon, it's the packet of a Big League Chew. Big League Chew gum. If for all those that know, you guys know that I once thought that I was dying because I forgotten that I had chewed on Big League Chew gum, and my tongue was blue, and I thought that I was going through some kind of nervous shutdown of my body. And well, long story short, I didn't die.
Yeah, man. The blue tongue strikes again.
Blue tongue.
I wanna ask this, man. Did you see the fights over the weekend when it pertains to Connor Benn?
Yeah, I did, homie. I got to see those. I got to see Joshua Buatsi fight his his former sparring partner and one of his closer friends. Mr. Danasis, a very good scrappy fight. They were, so I got to see that fight, right? And the thing is about this, homie, when you think of a Joshua Buatsi fight, you think it's going to be a stink fest, a snooze fest. You think it's going to be one of the most boring fights you'll see. And for the most part, last year, I believe he had two fights, or at least within the last calendar year, he had two fights, and he was deemed the most boring fighter of last year. Now, I think maybe when he
Wait,
got that,
Boatsy?
yeah. He
Oh,
remember
damn.
recalled that once he left Matchroom on some kind of a personal gripe with Eddie Hearn, um, he was picked up by boxer and Mr. Can't remember what his first name is, but I know his name is Shalom.
Yeah,
For the
Ben
last
Shalom.
Ben Shalom, yeah, and they set him up against Chris Billum Smith, CBS, and they
CBS.
yeah, no, he's cool. He's really good. Both of those guys have fought in for Mr. Eddie Hearn, and in fact, one of the very first fights that I seen CBS at was when we were still going through the whole pandemic, the closure of all of these countries, venues were closed, and Mr. Eddie Hearn was having fights in his backyard in his mansion, which was an incredible venue. I mean, very sparsely attended, obviously, because only high rollers can make it into the backyard of such a wealthy individual like Mr. Hearn. Nonetheless, the fact that this fight took place in a mansion as the backdrop was just incredible. And CBS put on some very good fights right there against a fellow undefeated UK fighter. And when Joshua Buatsi left Eddie Hearn, they boxer pit him up against CBS, and they put him up against CBS's like home, right? Now, Buatsi was the big, heavily promoted former Olympian. Uh, and this guy, like how they tend to think here in the United States of America, the American, the A side, we never travel. We always call the shots. We tell them they have to come to us to fight. That's the arrogance of the American. Buatsi made the mistake of going over there to the backyard of this Chris William Smith, and he got beat. They stripped him of whatever lower ranking belt that he had at light heavyweight. Um, and now he fought in boxer, one of his sparring partners. But last year, yes, he was considered the most boring fighter of all because he takes this type of fight style, which is very safety first. I guess that's the best way you can say it. And a lot of the times he just throws a 1-2, and then he goes in for the hold, 1-2, and goes in for the hold, right? And it just doesn't fare well for him. It didn't look good. And of course, he got beat. And in fact, in one of those fights, they walked out on him, homie. They were in the middle of the fight, and this venue was just booing the whole fight throughout. And then people around the middle of the fight started walking away. They just left the fight. So this is Joshua Buatsi. Happily, I stayed there to watch because Connor Benn was fighting Dobson, and then they started going through some technical difficulties in the transmission of the Dodson Ben fight, and I don't know. The zone just had some kind of a brain fart, and they stopped showing the fight from the ninth round forward. It just kept repeating itself to the beginning of the Dodson fight. So that gave me the opportunity to hop over there to what was it? I think it was Paramount showcasing Sky fights. And what I'm here to say, homie Ricky, is that fight was a very good fight. I had some complaints, right? Because they gave Buatsi 2 knockdowns for having knocked down Danasis, but in reality, he never did. What happened was the whole ring was covered in some kind of logo types. Some company, you pay big money to blast your logo type in some kind of a slippery paint on white, so that, let's say, like it'll say Sky TV or whatever, and then those places, whenever there's sweat or water or whatever moisture, it tends to create a
What do
slippery
you think
surface.
about Connor Benn, my guy? Connor Benn.
I was concerned. I was
All right, thank
concerned.
you.
Yeah, I
Why?
was
Why were you
concerned
concerned, bro? Why were you concerned?
because he didn't look to be his dominant, explosive self. And most importantly, I was just very concerned that he is not creative with his punches. Uh, he's starting to become very predictable, and I don't think his power is carrying over well into the higher weight class because he fought at, well, he made weight at 150 and a half. So I'm not too sure he's going to be one of those fighters that can go up in weight as confidently as assured as he was talking about going up to 160 or whatnot to fight his nemesis Chris Eubank Jr. But I'm pretty concerned, homie Ricky, and I think everybody in the world of boxing right now is thinking similarly, especially the fighters, because all of a sudden he's the Johnny come lately that everybody wants to fight, not because of how good he looks, but because of how weak he looks. All the fighters want to fight him now because he looks like food.
Do you I know he looks like food, but do you think he is food to the elites? Or at least the fighters that are calling him out. Do you think he's food to Tank? Do you think he's food to Devin?
So look, I don't even entertain a notion of Tank Davis versus Connor Benn fight, homie Ricky, because Tank Davis has never traveled above 140, right? And and if I'm not mistaken, um, Connor Benn has never fought lower than 147. And in fact, he's actually fighting at 154 right now because, once you pass the threshold of 147, you're officially fighting at 154, whether you're 158, 148, right? So I don't see any way that these two fighters can make it happen. That Conor Benn would never go down to 140 or 135 ever. I don't think he could make that way, and it would be ludicrous for Tank Davis to climb up so many weights, look all stumpy and heavy to fight a guy of that caliber. Regardless, Conor Benn is much bigger than Tank Davis. So I think it's all a frivolous conversation. It's just one of those things that Tank Davis is bringing up just so that it can draw attention and make other fighters look bad while making himself look like he's daring. But I don't think that fight is ever even a possibility, homie.
Right on, right on. And you know, so for example, Conor Benn to a lot of fighters or to the American fighters, right? He looks like food. But I can say the same thing about Errol Spence. In fact, if I'm a guy like Mario Barrios, if I'm a guy like Conor Benn, I see as Errol Spence as food. I see him as damaged goods. I see him as a guy that's probably going to be very inactive, very ring rusty, with a lot of doubt of himself because he's got detached retina. He had surgery. Um, he just took a terrible beating. I don't even know if he can make 147 or wants to again. So if I'm guys like Conor Benn, I'm like, bro, I know you guys want to trash talk me because I'm fighting an undefeated fighter, but Errol, you didn't look so hot yourself. Let's make that fight. If I'm Conor, I'm calling out Errol Spence before I'm thinking about moving up to 160 and fighting Chris Eubank, who just knocked out Liam Smith. So it's very interesting where people have this notion. Look, man, if Tank Davis were to fight Conor Benn, overall, I would favor Tank Davis to fight him, but I don't think it would be easy. Simply because Tank is pretty small, but he
Yeah.
has better IQ.
Hmm.
He's got better. I wouldn't say combinations, but I think he punches harder than Conor Benn naturally. I can't say that if Conor Benn is a naturally big puncher without the juice, or without the egg whites that he likes to devour, but I would favor Connor a little bit in some of these fights, like Devin Haney, maybe a Teofimo Lopez, but I would not favor him over Tank Davis, mainly because I think Tank Davis is pretty crafty.
Yeah.
But I would have to see Tank throw much more punches, man. If guys like Rolly Romero can be beating you for 6 rounds, and I don't think highly of Rolly, imagine somebody that really uses their height and doesn't try to engage with you. Connor he's gonna make it a slugfest. So that's gonna be a very entertaining fight. And guess what? He can catch Tank Davis. It's not
Oh
like
yeah.
Tank Davis doesn't get hit. He gets hit in
Mhm,
all of his fights. So Connor
mhm,
could beat Tank Davis.
mhm.
But if I'm Connor, man, I'm probably calling out Errol Spence in the new future, especially if he's still gonna campaign at 147.
Yeah.
That looks to be food almost for everybody. Like if I'm what's old boy from Philadelphia, Jerome Boots Ennis, I'm
Mhm.
calling out Errol Spence, man. Like, hey, bro, I got your IBF belt, the first belt that you went across overseas to fight Kell Brook in. You want a shot at glory? Come see me. If I'm everybody, Mario Barrios, I'm calling out Errol because I look at Errol, like I said before, like damaged goods. A fighter with probably, is thinking about switching trainers, thinking about, man, do I still want to keep fighting at this weight class? Am I going to move up to 154 at 160? Where do I go from here? It looks like the rematch with Bud Crawford is not going to happen.
Mhm.
Arrow was kind of like shaking his head in terms of not panicking, but wondering what's the next correct step forward.
Yeah.
I'm Connor.
So
Like that's me.
look, as for your question, right? Is Connor Benn food for all the big notable names at 147, 154? Um, well, look, I have too much respect for Errol Spence
Yeah.
for
Sure.
me to just say, yeah, for me to just say, okay, he might be a beatable name for Connor Benn right now, right? We have to understand that irrespective of what kind of devastating loss that three belt holder sustained at the hands of a two-time undisputed and Terrence Bud Crawford, we have to understand that he went through all those physical uh, lingering effects from the car wreck and still fought notable names like Danny Garcia and who was the other fighter? Well, Errol Spence, obviously,
Yeah,
and
Dennis
Ugas.
Ugas.
Yeah, very capable fighters
Yeah.
with detached retinas, no teeth, um, you know, uh, cycrotic skin. But he still overcame those challenges. He did not look the sharpest, and he didn't look most dominant. And of course, they were hard fought scraps. Nonetheless, what matters is not the kind of wars that you put yourself in. It matters that you come out triumphant at the end, right? Because that's the same thing that we can see about Subriel Matthias. He was in his last fight against that Shoyashev or whatever his last name is, and he was in a hell of a fight too, but he
Yeah.
still overcame, right? It's not that these guys are flawless, and that's what matters. It's can they overcome? And I think Terrence Crawford has overcame a lot. I would say we'd have to give him an opportunity to redeem himself to really gauge whether or not Connor Benn is ready for that kind of a fighter. But I would say this, homie Ricky, a type of fighter that he is ready for would be somebody like Mario Barrios. And the reason I say that is because Mario Barrios became a champion of a vacancy, right? I think it's actually a minor belt holder. That's what he is. He's not a champion. He's a minor belt holder with Thurman after he beat Ugas, if I'm not mistaken. I think with the 147 belts are really still held, the three of them by Terrence Bud Crawford and one by Boots Ennis at the IBF. But nonetheless, I think that's a very good fight because Mario Barrios is a baby belt holder who's obviously looking quite good and capable at 147. Put up a good fight against Keith Thurman. Yes, he did lose that, but he also put a very good fight against Ugas, and I believe he laid good hands on that boy. So I think that would be a more suitable fight for both of those guys, really, especially in the case of Connor Benn, still trying to find out what weight class he wants to dispute in. And I would say 147 is much closer to 140 to beat a smaller, as he likes to call it, Munchkin and Tank Davis. And here's the thing, homie Ricky. Mario Barrios has actually been asked about fighting Connor Benn. In September of last year, 2023, our year of our Lord, he was interviewed about this upcoming fight that he was going to have with Ugas. And I'm not too sure what the notion was there behind that interview with bringing up Connor Benn's name, but he threw Connor Benn's name out there. And Mario Barrios answered it. And I would encourage you to see if you can bring that up, homie Ricky. That short interview, it's actually segmented so that you can just hop onto that one timestamp where he talks about a possible Connor Benn fight. He says yes, and I would go fight over there in UK. And the only fighter that Connor Benn has called out more earnestly, more seriously, has been Mario Barrios. He only responded to Tank Davis because Tank Davis started to count on him, but he, from out of his own mouth, said, I would like to fight Mario Barrios. He says, I would be above the clouds if I fought that guy. I think that's a very possible fight.
Yeah, I know, man. I'll just take your word for it. I think that's
Well, it's better.
exactly. I think that's exactly what he said.
What if I'm
I've
a
seen
liar, though? What if I'm
I've
a
seen
liar?
no, I've seen the interview.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see. I'm trying to pull up all the screenshots of Connor Nigel Benn and Gervonta Davis going back and forth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but I
yeah,
don't really apply much validity to those statements of um of Tank Davis saying that he's talking to Eddie Hearn, and that Eddie Hearn, as of a day ago, said it's a done deal, because that's actually what Mr. Eddie Hearn said. It's a done deal. I don't think anything is ever done until Tank Davis actually signs on paper and he brings down a guy and catch weights him or rehydration classes him. Otherwise, I don't think a fight will ever happen. So no, I don't value those rumors too much, homie. But they are interesting rumors.
oh yeah, look at these. Look at this first post between Gervonta Davis. He goes, "No funny. The way you looked last night, give me 3 weeks and a weekend in the Turks, and your ass is grass. You hear me?" And then he lists Devin Haney, Chris Eubank Jr., Spence, Brooke, and Barrios. These are
Hmm.
the names, and probably much more on this list of who he can choose.
Hmm.
And then they just go back and forth. Basically, what you're saying, calls him a little shrimp, a little shrimp. I'll say this, man: the UK banter is hilarious, man. They come up, it's funny, it's unique for sure. Truly, Trey goes. Arrow is my favorite active fighter, but we need to see him fight. If I'm anyone besides Bud Crawford from 147 and 154, I'm calling him out, just like the homie said. I
Yeah.
agree, man. I would. I want to test that eye. I want to test his will if he still has that dog in him, and I want to see if he's got, like, everybody needs to see that. So yeah, hopefully Arrow, he gets a good R&R, and I'm sure he'll be back. And when he does, is he gonna go on a tear and try to become undisputed at 154? If so, that is great news for the sport of boxing, because there's amazing fights that he can have with guys like Sebastian Fundora, who will be fighting for the vacated WBC belt on the same night that the same night that Pitbull and Rolly will be fighting. And then of course you have across the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean and all these things, Tim Sue over there repping Australia. And then I don't even know who the other two champions are at that weight class. But imagine Errol trying to become undisputed and having to fight those dudes. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Crawford may have beaten the confidence out of him. When you fight and lose the way Errol did, you lose a part of yourself. Errol has beaten multiple people in that fashion. Yeah, absolutely. Very good point. It's tough, man. Errol is going to be, is tasting defeat for the first time, tasting a knockout stoppage as well, surgery, maybe a new weight class. All of these things are question marks, right? Where
Hmm.
going back to a guy like Mario Barrios, Connor Benn, or whoever, they should be adamant and persistent and asking out, hey, let me get that fight. Let me get that fight. Let me get that fight.
Hmm.
And Arrow is going to have, I mean, if he doesn't fix those issues soon, maybe does he go with a tune-up, like a Leonard Bundu type of fighter just to get him back into the works? Or does he go straight into it and fight, a top contender? These are a lot of questions that hopefully we get to see the comeback of Errol Spence, and we continue to see the consistent, or what's the next move for Bud Crawford. For some reason, he's very adamant at the age of 35 or 36, when in the grand scheme of things in boxing, you're relatively young. I'm not saying that Bud Crawford, hasn't had tough fights, but at least from what I've seen professionally, they haven't been that tough. Now, I don't know what kind of sparring wars that he's getting into, but It could be a possibility that he does have a little wear and tear, and I don't think you see Bud fighting over the age of 40. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why he wants that big mega fight with Canelo Alvarez. I want to ask you guys a little bit on that question, or ask you guys a question that Errol Spence, Bud Crawford has stated. Him and Canelo Alvarez being the biggest fight in boxing. Is that true?
I think that I think because
Got a good point.
well, I think it's because we've never seen a fight like that.
What do you mean?
Um, we've never seen a fight where two undisputed pound for pound fighters who've attained so much notoriety in the sport will be facing each other off like that. It is a novelty. We've never seen anything much like that. It would be something tantamount to, let's say, Naoya Inoue going up to fight Teofimo Lopez, basically a two-time de facto undisputed versus a two-time literal undisputed, going up into weight classes, where they have never fought before, to entertain the masses just because both of them carry this allure of invincibility and greatness. I think that would be the type of fight that could sell well. Not only because the hardcores, I think the hardcores would be quite disappointed, but they would not miss that fight. But I think the sport of boxing could really sell that to the casuals. I mean, you just put undisputed, and then you just put the records, and in the case of at least Canelo, Saul Santos Alvarez Barragan, you don't even need to do anything. His fan base that he's garnished and attained over the years, they're going to follow him. And in the case of Terence Crawford, I think he really won himself over a lot of fans, including fans of Errol Spence Jr., the big fish, because of the weight that he put hands under favorite fighter, right? Um, so I think it would sell. As far as what they say, big fight, it's a big fight. It's not an important fight. Only more so for Terence Crawford because he has a lot to win, whereas Canelo doesn't. But I think it could sell well, homie. I really do think it could sell
Ooh, yeah, it's I would also say that it's the biggest fight that the sport of boxing can offer, or one of the biggest fights that the sport of boxing can offer, given the context and the momentum of both fighters. You said something though, Speed, that we haven't seen a fighter that's been undisputed and fought pound for pound. We just saw that with Jermell and Canelo, like they're pretty much undefeated, undisputed, and respectively, Jermell at the time was a pound for pound fighter, especially because he had a great run at 154. And then you can also add, you know, Alexander Usyk fighting Anthony Joshua. At the time, the first fight, Joshua having all the belts. His skills are actually really good. I like Anthony Joshua's skills. I could be in the wrong here, okay? But
well.
I like Anthony Joshua's skills more than I like Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua, even though he is a bit robotic
Mhm.
at times, and we know that's true because of the muscle, he has better punch technique than Tyson Fury. And a lot of people had Tyson Fury on the pound for pound list, and we're supposed to exclude heavyweights. From if from a textbook fundamental sound, you want to add Anthony Joshua over Fury. Fury relies more on his reach and height and his 6'9" freak nature, right? As a heavyweight boxer, but he slaps a lot of the times. You know, Everybody talks about, oh, there was, something with Tyson Fury's gloves. Like, no, he's just slapping the shit out of you. That's exactly what's happening, which is illegal, by the way. But nevertheless, he's slapping you. Anthony Joshua, he doesn't slap. He throws proper with his fists. So, anyway, um, we saw that with Usyk and Anthony Joshua were undisputed versus unified. So there's some precedent in terms of this modern era where we have seen similar fights to Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. But I will say this: Crawford's two-time undisputed, and that has never fought. That has never happened in terms of two-time undisputed fighter moving up, I don't know, 20 something pounds to fight another undisputed fighter.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history, but I think we talked about this in the past, and I will agree
Yeah.
with you guys. It is one of the biggest fights in the sport of boxing. It would be bigger than David Benavidez and company, but we talked about this in the past that sometimes there's weight classes for a reason, obviously, right? But your legacy of what you accomplished
Mhm.
should supersede whatever it is that you do. But in a circumstance, what Jermell did and what Bud Crawford is attempting to do, Canelo will strip all that glory that you just accomplished. So you have to really, I'm not saying you got to be scared, but I'm saying if you make amazing history, right? Like, for example, a lot of people like to cross over, right? You see a lot of people do it. You have OnlyFans models trying to be boxers. You have boxers trying to be OnlyFans models. You have, I don't know, TikTokers trying to be boxers. You have a lot of crossover because everything's about like, oh, just hustle culture. Try to, not put all your eggs in one basket. You have to have a investment portfolio and some stocks and some treasury bonds and some property and some cars, whatever. Everything is about crossing over and having multiple, I don't know, allocations of income. Anyway, long story short, everybody, like, when you create your legacy, just
Mhm.
stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
continue to dominate.
Mhm.
And like, there's amazing fights for Bud Crawford to have at 147. He can continue to fight his mandatories, right? He can fight guys like obviously Jerron Boots Ennis. He could continue to fight guys like Iamanta Stanionis, right? Amario Barrios, who just came off the victory over, your Denny Sugas. You can fight
Revshad
those amazing
Butayev.
fighters.
Yeah.
We don't need you, Bud, to go to 154 and fight those
But he
typical
doesn't. He
Mexican.
doesn't need that either. He just wants the money, homie. And here's the thing: going back to about this fight being a big one. Well, look, the last time that an undisputed fought another undisputed, again, like you just mentioned, Canelo Saul Santos Alvarez Barragan fighting the younger undisputed Charlo twin. That fight sold between 600 to 600, well, between 650 to 700,000 pay-per-views. It became the third highest selling fight of that year, following behind the Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, and believe it or not, Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. Make of that what you will. So, as far as the fight being big and intriguing, I do find it to be that caliber of a fight, a good pay per view fight. Um, and here's the other catch, homie. Charlo, the young Charlo, has never been considered the best fighter in the world. And I know all the promotions would run with that when it comes to how they would describe Terrence Bud Crawford. So I just think it would be a big fight. Do I care to see it? Do I care to put money on it? Do I think it's fair that Terrence Bud Crawford would ask for a handout, another one of those Canelo handouts, undeserving of a champion as he is, because he's never tested himself about above 147 or climbed up the ranks? No, I wouldn't want to. Would I pay for it? Absolutely, because I'm not gonna miss that fight. But I am a sucker, right? Um, so if you don't mind, homie, let me just read a couple of these messages here, just because a couple of our other listeners hopped on, and I do want to recognize that their attendance here is appreciated. So of course, Mexican boxing number one, good even fall to you. And of course, he starts off by saying, Mr. Vargas worked as Devin fanboy, and so he will be biased. Just warning you, he gets paid by Bill Haney to speak good about it. He is one of those. Yeah. Well, I wish boxing, Mexican boxing number one. I wish that Mr. Bill Haney was paying something for me, but no, man. We do this for about 100 listeners around the world, and Mr. Vince
Where
Vargas,
did
of
you read
course.
that from? That doesn't show up on my chat.
Yeah, it's been about 15, 20 minutes that he wrote that, but yeah, he he calls me a Devin fanboy. Um, but Mr. Vince Vargas, I think he's responding to Mr. Vargas and talking about the Big League Chew Gum story, which he says he'd love to hear that story again. And I forget in what live that was, Mr. Vargas, but yeah, Mexican Boxer says Devin Haney is an overhyped hype job. He lost to Loma clearly, and it's a boring fighting style. I disagree about the boring fighting style. I think he's becoming much more aggressive, much more exciting. But I do agree with you, Mexican boxing number one, that he lost to Lomachenko. Um, And of course, Truly Trey says Arrow is my favorite fighter. And I did want to bring something up. Let me actually just, provide a good even fault to Mr. Adam Hurley. Mr. Adam Hurley, good to see you again. I believe I was reading some of your comments on the BDA show earlier on. Thank you for supporting and listening to that fellow right there. I have a fondness and an admiration for that man. In fact, I would say that one of the reasons I decided to start going live with the homie Ricky was because I was inspired partially by Mr. BDA. So thank you for supporting that man right there, and good even fall to you. And of course, El Pachuco, Hip Hop Son, always a pleasure. And he says, saludos, cheers. Virtual at 154. Now, homie, before we hop on and start talking about other things, Trudy Trey said this, right? He called the Errol Spence his favorite fighter, and he was my favorite fighter at 147. And he goes on to say something to the effect that Crawford may have beaten the confidence out of course, Errol, the True Spence Jr. When you fight and lose that way, Errol may have lost a part of himself. Errol has beaten multiple people in that fashion. Now, homie, I don't get the impression that Errol Spence Jr. has lost any confidence. In fact, when people were making a big deal about Errol Spence having lost in the way that he lost, talking about sending in personal DMs and messages saying, "Man, take some rest, recover, go back and forth. Don't hop on this rematch immediately. Take a soft touch." He said that they were moving like cowards. He said that they were thinking like, and I can't remember what the exact words are, but basically saying that they're thinking like quitters, right? So I don't think he has any confidence degraded out of him. I just think he understands that Crawford got the best of him on probably his worst night, and I think he really would like to run it with Crawford once again if he wasn't so fragile and weather beaten right now. But what really caught my interest about what Trudy Trey said is that he insinuates that Errol Spence Jr. has lost some confidence and that Errol Spence has beaten people similarly to Crawford, where he's made those losing fighters lose a part of themselves and their confidence. And, homie, do you agree with that notion? Do you agree with Truly Trey that Errol the Truth Spence Jr. has beaten fighters to the point that they lose a part of themselves and their confidence? Do you recall anybody like that? I think in the case of some fighters like Sammy Vargas, he may have retired him, but Sammy Vargas already was about a year and a half laid off. I think he may have also similarly, maybe took out Leonard Bundu and Chris Algieri, where they never fought as capable as they were. And in the case of Mikey Garcia, well, after Errol Spence, he basically started going all downwards. But is there any fighter that you can say that the beatdown that Errol Spence gave that fighter may have lost him a part of himself? I think I would say
Yeah,
for
man.
sure.
There's been multiple, not only
Really?
the names of the fighters that you talked about, but
Hmm.
he destroyed the confidence of Chris Algieri.
Yeah.
He basically made Chris Algieri like reconsider and just like and then Chris Algieri kept getting up, and then Errol was like, all right, and then boom, and then it was just like too much, and you can see the defeated and destroyed nature of a boxer of Chris Algieri just sitting there on his butt, and he's like, damn, you know. You saw it like with Leonard Bundu. Leonard Bundu was the same situation. He didn't want to listen, so boom, slept, and his leg gets bent, almost damn near falling off the ring. He broke the
Hmm.
will of Kell Brook. Obviously, Kell Brook went on to continue to fight, but he really went the same. Just embarrassed and outclassed Mikey Garcia, and limited him to he was like a kid trying to fight his older brother, and he just could not swing. He's like, man, this dude just beating me. Like he just like there was no respect in that fight. And then your Dennis Ugas, there was a lot of like, man, almost a lot of the fights you can tell that Errol just broke the will and the confidence of these fighters as the rounds kept going longer. And I didn't see that with Bud Crawford when he was beating Errol. You see Errol still trying to go on there. So I guess to kind of clear up the noise is I don't think Errol like he's going to lack confidence,
Hmm.
but like from a mental standpoint, the kid's headstrong, but sometimes you got to listen to your body,
Yeah.
right? And we always have this notion about the power of the mind, right? That if you have a strong mentality, you can accomplish a lot of things. That is true. But
Mhm.
sometimes a torn Achilles or a ligament is going to limitate you and is going to cap you. I'm not saying that's what happened with Bud Crawford in the situation, because in retrospect, all of us are doctors now and we can see the
Yeah.
warning signs, but we weren't listening to them before it occurred. And neither was Errol. But Errol knew when he had like fake teeth, and especially when the mouthpiece fell off, he always didn't want to take off the mouthpiece out of his mouth because I think this was in the Danny Garcia fight, and Errol talked about it because he was like, I don't know if I can feel my teeth, and I don't want to be caught on camera. So there's some insecurity issues that he knows that he's not 100% intact, and he hasn't really been living the fighter lifestyle. These are his own words.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a saying that he did say. I think he's like, man, who raised you guys? You
Yeah.
guys
There you
are
go.
like stay at home, get your money or lunch money stolen type of dudes. He
Yeah.
said something like that. I forgot
Yeah.
exactly what the exact phrasing of the word is. So I
Yeah.
know mentally he's strong, but at the end of the day, I don't really care
Yeah.
because you can tell me whatever it is on camera, but I'm seeing completely different body language out of you, Errol. I'm
Yeah.
seeing that your punch resistance isn't the same. And I saw that in the Yordenis Ugas fight. And I saw it in the second round when Terrence Butter Crawford hit you with a jab to your neck and you
Mhm.
fell down. Okay.
Yeah.
So he can talk strong all you want, but you got to just show me.
Yeah. But
That's why, like, if I'm a fighter, like if I'm Connor Benn or any of these fighters, I'm hyping myself up and calling Errol Spence because I see damaged goods. Now,
yeah.
whether I step in there and Errol Spence bodies me and pieces me apart, that's a different. I'm gonna figure that out on fight night. But as
Mhm.
from an outsider looking in, oh man, I'm rubbing my hands and I'm like, easy money, and I'm gonna become a star overnight. Maybe
Yeah.
even retire Errol. That's kind of what I'm feeding myself as a fighter, trying to be an opportunist. But yeah, no, yeah, I can
Look,
definitely see that happening.
I look for reasons to accredit fighters instead of discredit him, right? And I don't know if necessarily Errol Spence beat the confidence out of Chris Algieri, because recall, homie Ricky, that he fought Chris Algieri after Manny Pacquiao had dropped Chris Algieri in his fight about 6 different times. This was after Chris Algieri was at the peak of his success, right? He had just barely beaten a couple of fights before Emmanuel Taylor and Ruslan Provodnikov when Ruslan was on a tear, and then he ended up fighting Manny Pacquiao, having been embarrassed and beaten in every single round of that fight, and dropped the ball 4 or 5 different times, doing somersaults from the way that he was fighting. And then he ended up losing to Amir Khan in successive fashion right after Manny Pacquiao. Then he ended up taking on Errol Spence, and he still continued to fight and to have wins up until he met Connor Benn, and then he retired. So I think in the case of Chris Algieri, if you can pick yourself up after the type of embarrassing performance that you had against a fighter like as Emmanuel Dapridan Pacquiao, then I guess I would say no. I think Chris Algieri never had the confidence beat out of him, but he was utterly beat, right? And every other fighter, I think for the most part, we can just go there and say, yeah, okay, maybe he did that to Jordani Sugas, right? Because afterwards Mario Barrios beat him. Danny Garcia, we can look at that and say, well, did Danny Garcia really get utterly devastated and loss of his confidence? And maybe we can say some of that may be truthful there, because we have seen Danny Garcia cry from mental depression. But I don't know if it has anything to do necessarily with the beatdown that he got, so much as the fact that Mr. Al Heyman has ruined the latter end of his career. And of course, Sean Porter was primed to retire soon after. And in fact, he has said that after that Errol Spence fight, he was ready to retire. So maybe there is some truth there. I just wanted to acknowledge truly Trey for having brought that point up there, because at least it gives me an opportunity to go through Errol Spence's box rec and just look at those fighters and say, okay, Yeah, there's some truth to that, or let me just verify it. But thank you very much, Truly Trey, for bringing that up. And the Pachuco State's virtual at 154. I'm not too sure what the context was right there, Pachuco. I forget what we were saying where you answered that. But if you could remind us what you wanted to say about virtual Ortiz Jr. at 154, we'd really appreciate it. Um, Homie, do you want to read some of these comments like our listeners are? Truly Trey goes on and says, but right now equals payday, payday. Know that you want payday, Canelo. Yeah, I agree with that. um and it's true. But you know what, Truly Trey, again, Mexican boxing number one is going to chew me out for this, and even El Pachuco is going to say it. But Terence Crawford is probably the greatest fighter, the best, most skilled fighter in the sport of boxing right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and a fighter like that, you can never discount him. Not because of weight. Would all the odds be stacked against him? Absolutely. But can a fighter with the ring IQ like Terence Crawford come up with a game plan to beat somebody like Saul Santos Alvarez Barragan, who has about three or four different game plans to beat him? I think he could. Yes. But of course, I think it's like a 80-20% in favor of Canelo. Not that I ever want to, not that I ever want to say that fight. I'm just trying to be a realistic individual and respect both of those fighters and say, hey, this is the sport of a puncher's chance. And of course, before you hop on,
Right.
wait,
Drew.
last one. This one's for me. El Pachuco states, I don't understand why Canelo would entertain the Crawford fight. Canelo will not get credit for winning that fight. Canelo doesn't even get credit for fighting Bivol at 175. We've been saying that forever at Pachuco. Canelo, Saul Santos Alvarez Barragan, you better walk up there to the dark and smoky office of Mr. Al Heyman and say, Al, this ends here.
Drew, my check real quick. How you been, bro?
Yo, what's up, man? Mic check. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Good?
sir.
Oh, huh.
Good?
Let me ask you a question, man.
Yep.
Have
Yep.
you been paying attention to these the lineup of fights that we're gonna have this Thursday?
Man, I was trying to look it up, man. And then I got like lost in the rabbit hole of Emilio Vargas's fight card, and I was like looking at that one. But nah, man, no, that's gonna be on. What's that gonna be on? Pro Box?
Nah, it's gonna happen on. We talk. Wait, Emilio? Who's Emilio?
Emilio
Vargas,
Vargas.
but I guess
Oh,
he's fighting.
Emiliano Vargas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I'm
fighting
not
on
too
the
sure.
undercard. Yeah,
Think
he's fighting.
Vince
Yeah.
was telling us that he's gonna be fighting on March 29th instead of this Thursday. On Bovada, it has Emiliano Vargas fighting this Thursday against this dude named Ornilas, but
Oh,
um,
okay.
Pinellas.
apparently, it was rescheduled. But let me ask you a question, man. Do you
Yep.
think on the co-main event, Jose Pedraza has a chance of upsetting Keyshawn I Smoke Davis?
Mm. Man, it's gonna be a good fight. I mean, I think it's gonna be um a really technical fight. Weapon.
No, keep going. This comment right here from El Pachuco.
Oh, okay, okay. But yeah, no, he's it's gonna be a real technical fight. I think Pedraza has the skills and the tool set. I mean, when's the last time he fought? Like a couple months ago, right? I think I remember him being pretty active. So I don't think inactivity should be an issue with his age. Like he's been staying in the ring or in the gym and stuff like that. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
I agree. I think he has a chance to upset him, bro. Like I have no um confidence in a stoppage or anything like that. I think this is definitely like going the distance. I think
yeah,
unless Pedraza went through some kind of um something with his age, like he's having a hard time like pushing himself or whatever, like age hitting him or something, but I doubt it. He's been too consistent. I think he's gonna be a tough fight for Davis, but I mean, yeah, I think the thing is Pedraza doesn't have too much power to like to actually like make Davis afraid of him, but I think he has enough maybe just to keep him honest, you
yeah.
know. Um, but I think Pedraza, no, I agree. Like thinking about like the shit that he's been through and all the wars that he's been through, and
Yeah.
I'm like this is a different guy. As far as like Keyshawn's like past opponents, I think this is by far like his toughest test right here, and the most probably like the smartest dude he's fighting right here is
Hands down.
yeah,
Hands
hands
down.
down, like the smartest dude he's fighting right here. I'm trying to think who's Davis fought, but no real big names. So yeah, this is by far
Yeah,
like
like,
the smartest dude on top of the skill set that he has. So
yep.
I would not put no money on Davis whatsoever. If I want to, if I'm feeling opportunistic, that's something to bet on right there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely, man. Just to reinforce your point, Keyshawn Davis, he's only 9-0, right? He's 24 years old. And Pedraza, I know you try to emphasize a little bit on his age, but he's only 34 years old, which
Okay,
isn't really too young or really too old, but
in the middle.
he's gotten better with age. You see,
Right.
and ever since he's campaigned at 140 and passed that Lomachenko fight, because mind you guys, he looked competitive versus Lomachenko. I thought the scorecards were a little wider. I thought Pedraza won like at least 4 rounds, if memory serves me right. But he also fought Jones Cepeda after he moved up to 140 and he went the rounds with him. He looked good. He also, I thought the fight was extremely close when he fought, the guy from Fresno, Jose Ramirez. He went
Mm.
on to fight Richard Comey, and he also, in my opinion, looked really good against Arnold Barbosa coming up late. And now all of those guys have much more experience, are probably bigger punchers than Keyshawn Davis at 9-0.
Mm.
And Keyshawn Davis, for his resume, I mean, I don't know if it was his last fight, but he fought like, can you dig it, Anthony Yigit. And I
Mm.
don't really know who else he's fought since then. I think he fought like Pablo Cesar Cano or like a Juan Carlos Burgos, one of those dudes, but maybe those guys are a little past their prime. And we just saw Andy Cruz on his professional debut completely outbox that gentleman for 10 rounds. So he's needed to do it on his seventh fight when Andy Cruz did it on his debut. Now time is on Keyshawn Davis's hands. The kid is only 24 years old, but I've been really unimpressed by him. You know, I don't really see this guy to be a superb knockout artist. I don't really think he sets up his punches right. And in his last fight, I don't know if it was against Anthony Yigit, but I think it was a no contest because of the smoking of the weed incident.
He's really.
I think that was against Namir Albright, who fought
Mm.
tall and did really well.
He's
Lost,
really
but it was like 6-4. I don't
like I,
remember exactly, but yeah, man, it's like you said, as betting goes, this could be one of those upsets. Now,
mm,
I will say this: can you trust Pedraza with your money?
I trust his IQ. I trust his his experience. I trust all that, and I think uh with Davis, bro, like he's really just like eye candy, right? Like he looks great. Like he looks like he has like you'll see him like punch the bag and working out, and uh it's really convincing. Like seeing him, and it's like, damn, this dude stays in shape. Dude's ripped the fuck up, but it's like, man, like I don't know, like he seems like a fighter that gets inconsistent inside the ring, and I think at some point you're gonna have to like mentally stay focused. When I hear him talk, bro, like he's really kind of all over the place. Like he doesn't seem like focused. Like he seems like he can't stay focused in general. So I just get the sense of inconsistency from him, and I think he's really sharp though. I think he's like there's a difference between like being a good fighter and staying in shape and just being a good and just staying in shape. I think nah he's eye candy, man, and I think he could win a lot of fights unanimously, and I think he's another like one of those fighters where if he doesn't get, I don't know what it is about him. I think he gets like bored or something. I forget. There's a fighter that gets bored at a lot, like Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison gets bored a lot, and he
Nah,
fucks
I don't
up.
think so. I think he starts to feel himself and then
Well, he
he
said
gets
it
fucking
himself.
stupid.
He said it himself though. He's like, man, I think I just get bored inside the
I think
ring.
Ryan Garcia gets bored, but I don't even believe that motherfucker either.
Yeah, right. With the shit he says, but like Tony Harrison has said he gets bored, but I feel like mentally you just I don't know, man. Like he seems like mentally like Keyshawn kind of seems all over the place, but he seems like he's committed. Like obviously like he's trained by Bomac, right? So
Yeah,
dude's in shape. So I mean, I know he's gonna come. That's the thing. I feel like he would probably be in better shape than Pedraza, but I mean Pedraza just does these he's gonna give him some trouble with his head movement and his and his angles and stuff like that. But yeah, cause he's tricky with it, bro. Like and he's really like uh what's the word I'm looking for? Like thoughtful in where he's what he's doing. Like
yeah.
he doesn't yeah, no, he's a good man. It's just yeah, Davis is gonna get caught, I feel like, and I just wanna see that, but um yeah, no, I would rather put my money on Pedraza, man.
Yeah, man, Pedraza is definitely going to land some punches, but in all of those fights, Pedraza is a little bit of a late starter.
Mm-hmm.
Jose Ramirez was coming down strong in the beginning. Same thing with Arnold Barboza, and then Pedraza still finds himself withstanding the storm, so to speak, and then he starts coming out
But
strong and
when
late.
Keyshawn does great, he does excellent. When he has his rounds, he's not like it looks like he's about to take him out, but then it and doesn't
Yeah,
end up taking him out. It looks great until he doesn't do anything with it, like with their state, then when they're in pain and stuff, he doesn't take advantage of it. But
yeah,
cause
yeah.
yeah, I feel like he does hurt his opponents, um, but no, when you hear people like Andre Ward saying that this guy can be like a pillar in his division, and I believe it, man. There's something in this guy that can be great. It's just he hasn't convinced us, most of us.
You
Uh,
think Keyshawn Davis could beat, Rayo Valenzuela or Edwin de los Santos?
he could shock us, man. I think he's a little bigger too,
Oh, I don't think
than
so.
his past opponents. But I mean, Ryo's opponents, bro, like he just beat Colbert, and I think Keyshawn's like bigger, bro. Like, yeah, I think he's at 140, no? Or am I tripping?
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know if he's at 140 at 135. He probably is at 140, but
Yeah, he's too big.
I don't even think. Look, to be honest with you, when I see Keyshawn Davis, I don't. I mean, I think he talks more and thinks more of himself than what he's actually displayed on the screen. I've yet to be really impressed by him. You know, I'm not
And
really impressed by the competition that he's been fighting. I'm not even gonna lie
mhm,
to you. I think guys like Abdullah Mason and Tiger Johnson have faced probably better competition than him.
mhm.
Because for instance, he's fighting guys that have a good record on paper, but haven't really amounted to much, right? Where guys like Abdullah Mason, I know I talked about it earlier in the podcast. He fought a guy named Angel Rebollar. Now, if you look at his record, dude's like 7-3, but those three losses are against amazing prospects like Charlie Sheehy, and he also beat one of our guys from our area, Justin Stanley Cardona. You see, and I know guys like Angel Rebollar would give guys like Keyshawn Davis a run for their money. Um, I know Justin would give Keyshawn a run for his money, right? So basically, what I'm saying is, even though he's fighting guys with a pretty good record, you're like, man, this guy's just an up and coming prospect. It's one of those situations where like, is he a prospect or is he you already lining him up to be a contender, right? And depending on what your answer is pertaining to Keyshawn Davis, then I'm gonna be like, well, as a prospect, he's good, but as a contender, I'm not impressed. I don't think he would be a champion. To your question, if he's campaigning at 135 or 140, I don't know, man. That's a good question. Maybe
It's
140, bro, I
it's
suppose.
I think it's 140, bro, because Anthony Giga, he fought who's he common opponents with again? I feel
He
like
fought Rolly Romero.
that's right, 140. Boom.
But Rolly also started at 135, did he not? Or he has always been at 140?
No, I think he moved up to 140.
Okay, okay. So
So,
going on to the co-main event, so you're giving Pedraza a chance, same as me.
mhm.
Look, bro, $5 if I were to win this bet. Pedraza by decision. Emiliano Vargas, though, everyone's telling me that he's not gonna fight. Abdullah Mason and Jermaine Ortiz by decision. $5 would win me $500, bro.
Damn. You think that would be worth it right there?
I mean, for
Wait,
$5,
Pedraza? Let me see.
shit,
Hold on,
bro.
hold
That's
on.
I think so for an opportunity to win $500 over
And who's the other
fucking
one?
20
Okay,
piece
okay.
chicken nuggets from McDonald's.
Oof,
She boy, got me
oof.
torn up right there, dude.
Chicken
Um,
nuggies.
yeah, man. I will say this, man. What do you think about Jermaine Ortiz and Teofimo Lopez? How do you see that fight happening?
Wow.
Like, how do you see it going? What
Yeah.
do you predict, man?
Yeah. And thank you very much for bringing that up, homie, because our listeners want to address that topic right there. Brought up by Mr. Adam Hurley, and he does state, have you guys talked about that? And I don't think we have, homie. But
Talked
but
about it in the
yeah, I
beginning.
want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, no, I think I still feel like Teal's gonna pull it off. I think he's too athletic
Hmm.
for somebody like Jermaine, and
Jeez.
but Jermaine's in shape, bro. He's in really good shape. It's just that what can I say? Like, what can I say? It's like he's not a basic fighter. He's just like
No,
he just
it's
doesn't
not.
he's not a basic fighter. He doesn't have the he doesn't have enough to like set up shit for Tio, bro, because Tio can actually set it up, and um I think he's like like you could tell he's not in his head. Like he's actually confident, because at this point with Tio, bro, you got to see how he's react. I mean, yeah, you got to see how he's reacting and shit. I mean, and you got to see that it's like his past. Like when he was the most confident, he can, you know, fuck up. But I think some tells me that he's just gonna pull it off, bro. Like he's learned himself emotionally, and I think he's actually came a long way from who he used to be, and he's still like, who he is like as a fighter. I think I think he's gonna pull it off, bro. Um, I think Jermaine is actually gonna be surprised. I think Jermaine kind of overlooking Tio a little bit, but I don't know. I gotta see. I should have checked if they fought in the amateurs, because I've seen pictures of
Yeah,
them, or like face to face offs when they were younger and stuff like that. But my gut feeling tells me Tio, but I know what Jermaine has done. I know what Jermaine is capable of doing. You know, and I think I've said this before. I kind of I'm never betting on Tio again.
never betting on or against Tio.
Any fight that he's involved in, any
Why is that?
just because he just surprises me all the damn time. So
For
that's
good
my
or
stance
bad?
on. Well, this is the thing. Like, this is the thing. What he's been saying, and his presentation and all that, like on the media and stuff. Like he looks like he's been level headed, and kind of like growing as a person, and and just figuring himself out, because he's like saying all the right shit, and I'm like, wow, like this is I like this Teal, so
Yeah,
um hopefully he can it didn't change him as a fighter. Hopefully he can still hopefully it made him better. And
yeah,
I feel like it did, and he because he's still in shape. Dude's ripped as fuck. And I think if he beat someone like a Loma, I mean, you look at Jermaine, he wasn't able to beat him. I mean, he did give him. He didn't even give him trouble, I think, did he? Did you guys watch that fight, Loma, Jermaine?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think he gave him trouble to the max. Like, he's just a tall dude. He's 5'10", bro. So I mean, he's a big dude. I mean, he's athletic though. I mean, somewhat not as athletic as Teal though. Um, so I think his length might give him trouble. That's one way I can see Jermaine something Jermaine can work off of. Um, yeah, and I think Jermaine can win some rounds. Um, if it goes the decision, most likely it will go decision. But I think Tio will actually, I think Tio is actually gonna make him bleed one way or another.
Yeah, just to say this, man. I thought Jermaine Ortiz looked good versus Lomachenko. I thought from an athletic standpoint, he looked very fast. He was very sharp, and then he gassed out in the later rounds, and that's where Loma was able to,
Mm,
kind of make it one-sided towards the later rounds. And
mm.
for a lot of the time, that's Jermaine Ortiz's, that's his fault. That's
And that
his
was at
weakness.
135, right?
Yeah, that was 135, and that's his weakness. I feel like he's
Mm,
an amazing 7 round fighter. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he's a championship fighter. If he can come out strong in the championship rounds.
mm.
Now he's had a little bit of more time to develop and figure out that stamina issue, and maybe going up to 140. You know,
Help him
not
out.
allowing himself to get dehydrated and be such a size,
Yeah.
like a weight bully at the lower
Mm,
weights. But I will say this, man. Right here in this picture, you can see Jermaine Ortiz versus Antonio Moran Jr. You can see already some inflammation and agitation on Jermaine Ortiz's face. And this is
mm,
Antonio Moran, who's not really a big puncher. So imagine what
mm.
Teofimo can do. Now, here's another
Yeah.
thing. Teofimo does a great job when he has a large target to hit. The bigger you are,
Hmm.
the more radius that he's able to pick you apart. And
And he's just
Jermaine
gonna
is
swing.
very big. He's very wide. And that just allows me that I can hit anywhere that I want.
Hmm.
Especially Teo does great against southpaws. Jermaine Ortiz being ambidextrous, he likes to switch it off from the orthodox and the southpaw. And I know
Hmm.
he does that because one of his legs starts to get tired.
Yeah.
He switches. If he
And he's
switches
gonna
to
catch him.
southpaw, yeah, I can see Teofimo knocking him out.
I could
With
see him
that being
catching
said,
him on the switch.
absolutely, Jermaine is very flawed, and as you can see, he fights very athletic. He
Mm.
is very big and strong, but he does a lot of mistakes from a technical standpoint. Even though he likes to call himself the technician, at times, especially when he's fatigued, he starts to make basic errors. Now, on the flip side, if he were to use his height at 5'10 and
Hmm.
5'11 in box and utilize his jab and make it boring, more or less how Masayoshi Nakatani did against the Japanese fighter that fought Teofimo Lopez, then I can see Jermaine Ortiz winning a decision. But if he tries to go, wall for wall, blow for blow, ah man, I don't think Jermaine's got that dog in him. And
Yeah.
if you
Nah.
watch some of these interviews on Fight Hub, that's kind of what his words and his mentality is. He's like, look, man, I'm trying to avenge my loss that Teofimo gave me in the amateurs. I got more dog than him. So when you start saying those things, it starts to kind of paint the picture that, man, you want to make this a blood fight, a slugfest. And I would favor Tio in that because Tio's got better inside game, counterpunching ability, speed and sizzle and strength than Jermaine Ortiz. But hey, man, I've seen, smaller punchers knock down Teofimo Lopez in sparring and in professional, right? And I think
Mm.
Jermaine Ortiz can pull the upset if George Cambosis can.
Yeah. No, that's a good parlay, man. That you have set up right there.
I
Um,
appreciate it, man.
I
$5 for
can actually.
500.
Yeah, I can actually see that happening, bro. Put another O on that. $50 on that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
now you're getting a 50-50, man. Like shit,
Mhm.
yeah.
5,050. I don't know about that, man, but as
Put
broke as
10.
I am, I could do $5, bro.
10
50
bucks.
bucks. I don't know, man. That's a full tank of gas right there.
Yeah,
Damn. Damn. What the hell you driving?
to address that fight, guys. El Pachuco states he has it 60-40 in favor of Teofimo Lopez, against Jermaine Ortiz, and I think I have it much greater odds in favor of Teofimo Lopez. Without a doubt, I don't want to discredit the skill set, the prowess that Jermaine Ortiz has. I mean, without a doubt, when you are a standout national recognized amateur like Jermaine Ortiz, who's had an amateur career fighting the likes of Edgar Berlanga and Boots Ennis. and Teofimo Lopez climbing up the ranks. I think he's also, had a couple of run-ins with Devin Haney or Shakur Stevens, or maybe has trained with them. And we know that without a doubt he has his sparring partners Raymond Ford and Vasilo Mashenko. When you have a fighter like that, and he's a ambidextrous fighter. He's both very capable individual as orthodox and a southpaw fighter. The potential for Jermaine Ortiz, the technician, to move successfully in the sport of boxing is all there. I mean, he's definitely skillful. He definitely gave Lomachenko a hell of a fight, a very close fight, in my opinion. That, of course, started to just become more clearly in favor of Lomachenko as the fight went on. I think, maybe Jermaine Ortiz was struggling at making weight at 135. And, of course, notably, when he tried to remain at 135, he kept catch weighting and going up to make a fight closer to 140. And then the fight after that one came out to be over, 139 or something to that effect. And he still looked shabby. I think when we look at those things, we have to factor the fact that it's not really so much that he's not skillful enough to move up into 140 and be successful there. I think how much troublesome is it to make weight, right, for this fella? How much of his energy, his skills are being put to the side when focusing on making weight? Because that boy is a huge boy. He's was very big for 135, and at 140 I think he's still going to be
He's bigger than
taller.
us.
Yeah, and I think, well, yeah. Well, not me. I'm like 6'6", and a handsome, muscular specimen of a man, and
Well,
Adonis, if
average
I
human
would.
height.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I think,
Dude, when I first seen him work out, I was like, damn, he kind of looks like a big, like a football athlete or a baseball athlete, bro. Like I was like, damn, this guy's actually bigger than I thought. Like before I actually seen him fight a couple times, But I was impressed with his with his uh with his workout and stuff like that, or like, and he's actually consistent,
yeah,
So
yeah,
he's committed, bro.
yeah.
Definitely
But I
committed.
mean, the thing is, here's the thing. Uh, when you just off the names alone, Teofimo Lopez has a way better record, right? So I would say it's closer to mm, 75 to 25, maybe 70 and 30 to in favor of Teofimo Lopez. That does not mean that that we won't see a possible Teofimo Lopez that's like one of our listeners said, cold and hot.
Mm-hmm.
He may just be the cold one that night, and maybe 140 is just easier for Jermaine Ortiz, and he might just pull the win. This is the puncher's chance sport, but just going off this record, I would say, look, you cannot embarrass a fighter like Josh Taylor,
Yeah.
who's been in so many wars and always overcome them, and then put on the guy who struggled to make
Th-
135 and
but
looked smart
th-
against
th-
Vasily Lomachenko.
but this fight right here is slightly different just because
Mhm.
they're from the same area, so it's gonna be some of that pride coming out too, hopefully. Hopefully Jermaine wants to really show out in front of their own people, because I think I heard somewhere where they know kind of like the same people in the same area and shit like that. Like,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
they've been knowing each other since kids, bro. So like, they're trying to there's another layer of motivation for this fight rather than like what's his name, Josh Taylor, a
Okay.
country is a European fighter, or dude from Ireland fighting someone from US, so I think there's a lot more pride right here because you could tell Jermaine he's actually talking a little more shit, for this fight, so you never really see him talking up a game too much in his fights, but you could tell this is gonna be a good fight. I can't wait. Anyways, yeah, who's in the undercard, guys? Undercard.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My bad, guys. I had to check out
Now
real
you're
quick,
good.
but I'm back in, back in. Warp speed, I guess. Hey, Warp, you back in?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm here.
All right.
Um,
First, let me read some of these comments. Larry Liston, man. Happy to see you. It's been a while. Adam Hurdy, thank you for tuning in, brother. Let me see. I think you might have read almost all of these. I've been battling the homie Ricky panelist in regards to Bud, says El Pachuco. The panelists are saying that Bud can beat a Shalom monk in less than one round. It's crazy. Yeah, no, he said that's funny. He also said something funnier earlier where something about the panelists are voting for Bud. He can beat anybody blindfold on because he has mastered the way of the Force like a master Jedi. Man, he's cooking you guys. Man. It's
No,
hilarious.
he's cooking me.
I know. Let's see. All right, let me start right here. Larry Listen goes either Jermaine does present some physical and athletic qualities along with his style that for sure can match Teofimo and make rounds look very competitive, but he lacks power. Adam Hurdy goes, I would take Teo, but I'm not positive. Larry continues, also Jermaine's inability to adjust, which we saw in the Lomo fight, might actually be the thing that loses him in this fight. I can see Jermaine doing very well in the start, but then losing a close decision.
Yeah.
Adam Purdy goes, I like to see Teo win his 20th fight. Larry Liston goes, salute to you, Warp Speed. At El Pachuco, Bud Crawford could be Teofimo. He has a similar style and is bigger, but he could also he's also a lot older, and Teo could beat him as well. Interesting, since again, it's a similar style, especially if he ages him out. Adam Hurley
Yeah.
laughs to that. Larry Liston goes, I'm just joking. I don't know if he laughs to that. He just says, well, Larry Liston goes, Duran beat Leonard, and the way he did it was phenomenal, but I don't think it will ever happen. Teo is using Bud and Matias to rile up a certain segment of fans.
Oh man.
Smart marketing. Yeah, it's a very good point. I never really put much attention to why he's so adamant in calling out Bud, but I could see it's a smart. It is actually pretty fucking genius. And Pachuco
Mhm.
goes, if I remember correctly, I had the Loma versus Ortiz fight much closer than most. Ortiz
Mhm.
put on a good fight. Yeah, man, I would say 7-5.
Yeah.
I saw a 7-5 Loma. I thought Loma did win. I thought
8-4 maybe.
yeah. El Pachuco goes, don't forget about Drew. He is the president of the Bud Crawford fan club. Alrighty, so actually, Larry, I want to focus a little bit
Oh
on,
man.
on one of the statements there. He actually is giving Teofimo a similar chance and trying to, kind of equate it to Duran upsetting Sugar Ray Leonard. Very interesting, man. I didn't actually really think about that. And the only reason why I wouldn't put Teofimo upward with Duran is I could never imagine Duran losing to a fighter like George Kambosos. You see, where Teofimo does have off nights, and this isn't his first off night. He also had one against, I just read Mayayoshi Nakatani, right? And he's looked incredible, almost infallible against, Aloma for the first opening 6 rounds and like 10 rounds to 2 against Josh Taylor. Now, I will say this. I've met Tio. He's helped me win a lot of money in a lot of these fights where he was a huge underdog, like well, not a huge underdog against Josh, but against Lomachenko and Josh fights, and it's very hard for me to go against people that helped me win money in the past.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to go against Tio.
Especially someone that you talk to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tio, in terms of the betting world and the sport of boxing world, he's got a he's got a place in my heart without being so corny, but for sure.
Yeah,
If I,
but the other thing, though, homie Ricky and Drew, that we have to factor in, and when you bring up Georgie Cambosis, ferocious Cambosis, to say that Robert Manos de Piedra Duran would never have lost to the guy. Well, if Robert Manos de Piedra Duran had been in a year and a half layoff, with familial problems, right? And some kind of a tear in the neck. Well, I think the tear in the neck actually happened during the fight, or something to that effect, right? Or maybe a few days before. But if you had those kind of conditions, you might just not walk in at your optimal best, right? I mean, I think I'd rather be Manos de Piedra Duran snorting coke in the 80s. Than being Teofimo Lopez, having a wife trying to break your heart and separate you from your newborn daughter, and having a whole year and a half, layoff, dealing with the boxer and all these other promotions trying to kick the start and Thriller trying to kickstart a fight there. So I think the conditions were set similar
No,
to what Errol Spence Jr. faced when
no.
facing Terrence Crawford to set him up for a loss. But I would say this: if you give me Georgie right now with Teofimo, I have Teofimo for even a knockout.
Yeah, no. Look, man. What do we know about cocaine? It's a one hell of a drug. What do we know about people that were like in the police academy or certain things like of that nature? They always tell the recruits, hey, "Look, man, you can hit these people with batons, and they're still keep coming at you. You're not gonna win that fight." I don't know if it's in regards to like superhuman strength ability of it, or they don't feel or numb to the pain because the drugs take over the endorphins and the pain receptors are fucking giving them this I don't know, Superman strength, right? But you try to say that Roberto Duran would do these things in the 80s. That just lets you know that's much durable and tolerance that he's gonna have towards Cambosa's like punishment. So no, man, you can't equate those
Yeah,
situations
look
to that.
at look
And
at
remember this.
Eloy
Remember this.
Perez.
Teofimo was at fault here when he lost to George Cambosis because had he been loyal to Top Rank and not taking that fight to purse, to a purse bid, guess what happens? He has a fight scheduled, and it's not going to be rescheduled 4 or 5 times like it was with Triller. That's probably the reason why he had a torn esophagus, probably multiple times sparring, multiple times cutting weight, made him weaker, and then sparring just to make the weight 5, 6 different occasions that Triller had to reschedule it from a Sunday and Monday to a Wednesday, and all of these things. That took a toll on Teofimo, right?
Mhm.
That's the real truth. Tio played himself. He was betting on himself that he would, and guess what? Sometimes what you bet on yourself, you lose. He lost that night, and he wants to blame Eddie Hearn in the zone when it was all
Yeah, that
his
was
fault had he
ridiculous.
just been loyal to Top Rank. So I'm not going
Yeah.
to give you guys that one.
No,
Well, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's just let's just disregard everything else I said because none of that matters. I mean, homie Ricky, I'm not trying to excuse it, right? Because a win is a win, and guess what? No fight is optimal. No fighter fights at 100% the capacity or anything like that in any fight. Anybody could say whatever or whatnot. You may have the sniffles that day. You might actually be asked to take off your gloves because somebody didn't sign beforehand, and then of course that just throws off your mental momentum and otherwise. But yeah, I mean, I do like to think no excuses, but a valid reason is a valid reason, and I do think that long layoff was a very valid reason. I do think, of course, he overlooked Georgie. Again, none of these things excuse the loss, but if you put all of those things together, you could say, oh well, you know, if he didn't have that, or if he didn't have that, and if he didn't have that, guess who you would have for the win? Teofimo Lopez, right? Um, so as far as this fight, guys, I have it a 70, maybe 75 in favor of Lopez. Drew,
Damn.
give me your win. Who's gonna win, Lopez, Ortiz?
I got Lopez winning at least um I'm gonna say at least seven, like, no, 8 to 10 rounds
Okay, can he
for
knock out
Lopez.
Ortiz?
I think he can knock out Ortiz. I think
Okay,
no. I think he's gonna they're gonna have to stop it on the stool. It'll be like a combination of punches that'll get him out of there.
homie,
You know.
who do you have for that win? How?
I have it 55-45 in favor of Teofimo. I am a believer of Jermaine Ortiz. You see, a man with conviction. I can see Jermaine Ortiz winning. Uh, I could also see him getting knocked out by Teofimo. I think Teofimo, to your guys' point, he does have a lot of momentum on his side. And he's, to Larry Liston's point, he fought Sander Martin. A lot of people would not fight Sander Martin because, when you fight a guy like Sander Martin, you know you're going to have a hard time connecting with him. It might be a hard time also looking good against him, right? With that being said, Tio actually fought him.
Yeah.
Devin won't fight him. In fact, Eddie Hearn didn't even want Devin to fight him, not because Devin will lose, but because it would less loosen like his stock. He'd be like, ah man, that was boring, and that's just because the type of fighter that Sander Martin is. he is our modern day Erislandy Lara, a very tricky, tough opponent that might just make you look dumb, right? And they're not going to praise him; they're just going to shit all over you, you know. And that's the situation that Santiago finds himself in. Is like, you might have the talent, but your inability to close out fights and make fights, turn to stinkers. People are going to forget about you, and they're going to boo you more than put you on the top, 10 contender list. So
Mhm.
anyway, with that said, I know Jermaine is capable of beating Teofimo, and like we said, when we
Yeah.
think highly of Teo, he also hasn't, like, for better or worse, he could shock us and be like, "Damn, Teo, you just looked amazing against Josh Taylor. What the fuck happened last night against Jermaine Ortiz?"
Mm-hmm.
And
So
isn't that the career of young Teofimo Lopez recently? We
yeah,
don't know who to
absolutely.
get.
I think it was Larry Liston or El Pachuco were saying that he was an enigma. He was, I forgot where that comment was, but he was like, I'm trying to find it right here.
Yeah,
No,
no. I'm looking at the
Maybe I'm just
undercard.
making up shit, but I
it's
thought
a
I
good
read that.
undercard, Drew.
Yeah, no. I'm looking at the undercard. It's Did
Keyshawn
you get? Were you
Davis.
were you gonna say something, Rick? Or can
Yeah,
I
I'm just
say?
trying to find that comment,
All
but
right, all right. But yeah, Abdullah Mason fighting Benjamin Gourmet, who's actually like a 8-0 fighter.
Hmm.
Um,
I can't find it.
actually with 5 knockouts, 3 draws. So I mean, yeah, Abdullah should actually get the knockout. It
Yeah.
looks nice on paper, but 8-0, I don't know. But before that is gonna be Charlie Shee from and then versus Abdul Salceda. Did you already say that, Rick? Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, he's fighting him, and then Javier Martinez, Milwaukee made that dude that we seen in Stockton that one day. He's fighting some dude named Raul Salomon or something like that. Um, and then Alan Garcia, he's gonna fight a dude named Thomas Ornelas. But yeah, I've heard of Alan Garcia before. He's from out here, I think. Oh no, he's from Kansas. Damn, he looks like he's from out here. But yeah, he looks pretty good too. A big amateur record too. Um, yeah, he's pretty good. Who else is on that undercard? Antonio Cepeda versus Lemire Isam Riley. Don't know who that is.
But look at the records, Drew. Like, look, you don't have to know all the fighters,
I know, but they both
right?
have losses.
Yeah, you just have to look at the records and be like, okay, do they have around the same age and fighting experience? Do they have
Mm-hmm.
similar types of records or close by, right? And if they look to be the case, hey, guess what? That's as fair a fight as it gets, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a fighter, if he wants to take on a lot of easy touches so that he could pad his record, and then all of a sudden he's faced against somebody who actually had to, get the same type of record as him, but take on harder fighters, well, that's on you for having set your fighter up with such easy touches. Because once you're really gonna step yourself up against somebody that has a record of 8-0, I mean, here's the thing, Drew: 8-0 record. That's still very good a starting record for a young guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can take a loss. In fact, look, I'm not too sure if you know this, right? But just to distract you guys from well, to sway the conversation in another direction, one of our local fighters here in Salinas, California, most recently had a fight a week and a half ago. Very young individual, good fella. I won't mention his name because I don't like to, but and I'm not gonna say anything bad about him either. But of course, me knowing this young fella personally, and talking to him, he's a great fella. Of course, I'm gonna wish the fighters that I meet personally, the best in their career. So, having missed this opportunity to watch him fight, I looked at his box rec just to find out what had happened that night, and he had a draw, right? And he has a very short-lived career, and he started off strong, taking on fighters in some of those
man, you
circuits
can
that.
win him. It's all
No,
right.
I'm not gonna say nothing. Not until I have consent and otherwise, right? But he has about a good 7 fights, and the last 2 fights were draws, right? And I think one of those was a
Just say his
majority.
name, might as well. You're saying people are gonna be like, sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
we talk about every other boxer without their consent, then all of a sudden we have to have consent because someone you know. Come on,
Yeah.
come
Okay,
on.
but so do you guys know who I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, so there you go. Then I don't. Well, long story short, right? Um, when you start taking on a certain caliber of fighters, and you've been taking on fighters at a circuit where you can find good fighters and very bad fighters, and you tend to get the very bad fighters for whatever reason or another. Maybe you chose them, or they were just the ones available. When they have to step you up in the bigger fights, and the fights that are going to be broadcast, and the fights that you might actually be the undercard in, that pressure might just get to you. And it's starting to show in this young fighter's career, where all of a sudden he's starting to have draws and nothing too convincing as far as a win, right? And maybe even a couple of losses. So when you get a fighter that you're able to overcome and get a record of 8 and know that's fresh in your start, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So if you look at those records of all those fighters that are gonna be fighting on Thursday, they look to be very competitive fights. So I think it's gonna be a heck of a Thursday. Remember, guys, it's on Thursday. It's not on Friday. It's not on Saturday. It's on Thursday. I think some of the YouTube channels accidentally said that this Saturday when you look right at the flyer and it says on Thursday, because nobody really anticipates these kind of fights to take place on a random day of the week, like on the Thursday just past hump day. But hey, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's I don't really like people that speak in code, right? It reminds me when person is speaking in two tones or in slithering like a snake, you know. Nah, man, this is the quote that or the message that I was looking for Larry. Listen, Teofimo is one of the biggest enigmas, most spiritual and mystical fighters, perhaps of all time. He speaks a lot in code in interviews. He knows the game and plays it well. I'm gonna tell you this. I like fighters that are authentic, not a fighter that talk or are trying to be cryptic, right? I don't not to be in interviews. Teofimo is very, he like the smartest man in the room type of thing. And when you speak to him in person, there's a little more level of authenticity when the cameras are not on. When the cameras are on, it's almost like he's playing a persona, kind of like an Alex Jones character, right? Where they always have a cop out. It's not what I meant. It was just something for the media to talk about and run with the headlines.
Yeah, but when we
So
talked to him in person though, it was like a different tone of voice
yeah,
with
it
him.
was just like how we talk to amongst one another.
A
It's like,
lot
man, this dude's
different.
personable. I've known this dude from elementary. Like, man, we're just shooting down memory lane, and it's like we haven't seen each other for 10 years, but it looks like no love is lost. That's how when you speak with Teofimo just in person without the camera. The minute
They
you
would
put
have
on the
thought,
camera, man,
yeah,
he's playing charades. He's
yeah.
playing it all too well, and it's just like I want to hear authenticity. I don't want to feel like I'm getting played. And I like when it's natural and organic rather than fabricated and trying to be a well-oiled machine type of thing. Yeah, Larry Listen goes Fury does the same exact thing. Absolutely. But
Oh yeah. They
they're
perfected
master
it.
manipulators, and
They
is that's the way
perfected
I
it.
look at it. I don't really look at them as they're very authentic.
Yeah.
When they are very authentic, then they start to then you see their true nature
Oh
you
yeah,
know
they're born to do that. You
but
create
yeah,
fighters there.
absolutely, and that's what you would see. There are guys that are showmen, and that's exactly what it is. They're typically never going to really reveal their hand, and like you said, they're enigmas. But I want you guys said something.
Who, me?
Oh yeah, it was Speed that he was talking about some certain fighters. If Vince is still here listening to us, I think you had sent me like a message where it was one of the fighters out of Salinas, Drew Superfly, Andrew Rodriguez, was going to have a fight in San Jose, like at the end of the month. I'm not too sure if you guys remember that, but I was wondering if he won or if the fight
Let
was
me
like
check.
scrapped off altogether from Black Prime. Do you
What?
guys know
What?
what I'm talking about or not?
No, but what's his name?
I think his name is Andrew Superfly Rodriguez, and he was supposed to fight on Black Prime, um, like at January 31st or something like that. Whenever that was a Saturday, and
Mm.
I was trying to dig up on his box rec, and it still shows 2-0. It doesn't show that he fought or anything of that. So I was just kind of wondering if he had won or he had lost. They haven't really been pushing it. I know that's one of Ruben Villa's fighters that he's kind of grooming or bringing up into the sport of the game. But yeah, I'm not too sure if he had won or anything. I haven't really seen any posts. It might have been rescheduled or canceled altogether. I know that's what happened to Jorge Maravillo when he was gonna have a fight down south, about 3-4
Mm.
hours away. But
They canceled it.
yeah, they canceled it. But he let me know, and then it got rescheduled, and he's gonna be fighting sometime this month in February. Hey
Where you gonna
Vince,
go?
so then he goes, it may have been canceled. I never heard anything after that. Yeah, same, man. It just kind of went dark. And I think
Yeah.
I might have read there was an announcement that the fight was canceled, but I might have been misinterpreting it when Jorge Maravillo let me know. So I'm not really too, um, I'm kind of all over the
Were they
place.
on the
I hope
same
I'm
card?
making sense. Say again?
Were they on the same card?
I don't think so. No.
Oh,
Vince Vargas goes, Jesse James Guerrero was supposed to fight also. No update. Weird. Yeah, both of them were supposed to fight. And I was trying to actually go to it, except one of my cars decided to act up and be unsafe to travel. I had to, like, for like the past 2 weeks, I've been doing a lot of mechanical work, changing the alternator, spark plugs, ignition packs, brakes. And my car started trembling after I power washed it.
damn.
Um, Look, man, we talked a little bit about everything. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about in regards to these fights that are happening this Thursday? Connor Benn performances in or around that
I didn't
news,
get to
or
talk
is that
about that,
pretty much
but
a wrap?
I didn't get to talk about the Connor Benn shit. But
All right, right
I
on. Right, jump right into it. What did you think of his performance, and do you think he is food for everybody that's calling him out?
all right. But first, did you guys already give off? Did you talk about that earlier?
Yeah, we
Uh,
popped off, bro. Yes,
okay,
sir.
okay. It'll be quick. It'll be quick.
All good.
Um, yeah. No, I think Connor Benn is food. I don't think I don't think he's like that. Like to a certain extent. This is the thing. Like he's capable of a lot, right? Because he has a lot of self belief, and I really I dig that shit, like that that self confidence. Like he knows how to talk shit, you know. Um, he knows how to talk shit, and dude, he was quick with that Devin Haney response or that question when they asked him like, oh, did you see the tweet and all this? Like something about your power and all that. And he goes, he goes, fuck, he talking about. And then he's like, what? So he has no power, you know? I was like, damn. Like, he hasn't gotten no knockouts in the last 15 fights. I was like, damn. Like, he had that on the back of his head, bro. Like, he was ready to fire that one off, bro. Like, he had that piece of information loaded. But it was impressive, bro. I was like, damn, this guy knows. This guy knows how to speak up a good game, bro. Like, I like him as a persona, but as a fighter, as a fighter, he's not complete. He does things good at a high level, you know. But um, yeah, bro, just for him. But the guy that he was fighting was seemed a lot bigger. So I mean, I would like to see a dude that's you know, that's like actually more mobile and has more fucking tools up in his belt, you know. But I think he's only food to the top dogs. You know, I think he's food to Devin and Tank, but I think he's capable of beating. No, he's not capable of beating Boots. Boots will wipe him out. I mean, obviously all the top dogs, bro, like Crawford. Um, I think he would actually give Spence a hard time. Um, but yeah, bro, like I think he's only food to like the top dogs. He's like two, he's like number two, number three, B on top of that. He's like three
Okay.
B, you know. But he's definitely a player in the game because of where he's from. He's from the UK. Everyone wants that. Connor Benn Connor Benn smoke because of the amount of money it would bring in for them, obviously. And I think he's a really appealing fight to these fighters. And I think that's, I was thinking about that, like him versus Tank, and I'm like, damn, like that would be a great fight, but I would want Haney before I want him to fight Tank, just because that's the thing. Like Tank's been at 140 before, but I don't know. Like I just feel like Tank's in more danger. I feel like because of his height, but he's also like I would see the knockout obviously, but Haney, I can only imagine how much better he gets at 147, but he hasn't had enough time to really like have his body go through. I think you need to have your body go through like multiple training camps for you to be like fully grown into the weight division, So um yeah, no, I think he's food to the top dogs. Not to like, he's a threat pretty much to like all the smaller guys, like cuz he's 147. Sometimes, man, I get confused with his weight class cuz he's so up and down, and I'm like, damn, bro, like you really just weighed in at 168, like did you fuck up your body or something? Like what did you do like to gain all that weight and now you're fighting at 147? Like how is it, like is this that's not normal, So hopefully he knows himself because you got to know yourself as a fighter. So him going to the gym at a certain weight and then you and you're training at that weight and now you're used to training at this weight now because you're fighting at 147. It's like, dude, like you gotta like know yourself before you hop in with the top dogs. You're just going in with your guts and your pride, So I think you need to do your body a favor and actually like stay in one weight class, and the fact
Boy,
that he's gone, what
is
happened?
he has he been manipulating his weight? I thought he was a career 147 pounder.
Yeah, he has, but the fact that he tried to weigh in with Chris Eubank at that crazy ass weight at 168 is kind of crazy. Like he pretty much did whatever he had to do to make himself feel comfortable at that weight, and
No, 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 Drew. No, no, no.
huh?
Uh, it was
So
at
what?
158. Wait.
Oh,
Yeah. So Chris Eubank was fighting at 168. Uh,
so he
and
moved down to 158?
the compromise was this. Uh, Connor Benn was supposed to go up and meet him halfway. So one guy was going to lose about 8 pounds, the other one was going to gain about 7 pounds or so forth and so on, so that they would
Mm-hmm.
meet halfway. So one was at 168, but the thing with Chris Eubank is that he never really ever weighed 168. He was mostly like a 165, 164. So he just needed to come down a few pounds from 160 to meet at a 158, where Connor Benn was going to go from 147 to 158, gain around 10 pounds himself, and the other guy was going to lose 9 or 10. That was the deal. That was the scenario. But I think you're right
Okay.
onto something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no,
he's
you're right. Uh,
but he's just that he's trying to get comfortable at that weight still, like at 158, like like whatever workouts that he did, like I hope it didn't fuck up like his his uh his weight loss process, because I mean you're trying to like get strong, now you building all this muscle and now you're losing weight, so it's like you're reversing the effect, like you need to let your body like get accustomed to one weight, so then you actually
mhm.
get your body gets accustomed to being at that weight, and that's why it takes, I feel like, multiple training camps, because I feel like you're still building muscle in those training camps, and you're still like your bones are getting grown into and all that shit. Like I feel like it just it's hard for your body to get used to that shit, and especially you're trying to do it with the top dogs. It's like, come on, bro, like taper into that shit.
Well, I think for the most part, if it
He's
make
been at
if it
147 most part, right?
yeah,
So
and I think he's trying to come down to 147.
okay.
The fight that he just had, the catch weight was at 150 and a half. Well, in
Mm,
fact, It was supposed to be at 150, but then they both weighed in at 150 and a half, and both of them agreed, okay, well, both of us weighed in the same, so what's the difference between half a pound? So they agreed to fight on that. Apparently, Mr. Eddie Hearn, when complaining about trying to antagonize Tank Davis to convince him to take that fight, he basically tried to ridicule Connor Benn by saying, "Look, Connor Benn looked this bad at 150, uh, and he accommodated that weight class for Dobson, making it seem like if Dobson was the guy who wanted to weigh in at 150." Now remember, um, Pistol Pistol Pete Dobson, had fought at 147 his last fight. In fact, you look into his career, if I'm not mistaken, he's always weighed as welterweight. Uh, Connor Benn was the guy who had, you know, almost gone up to 150 something to get that fight with with Chris Eubank. When all of a sudden the day before, he had to basically step up to the
He
mic
was
and say, he couldn't fight because of the allegations. So both of these guys are coming down in weight. Why? Because Dobson was in a layoff of about a year and a half,
well,
right? Having fought in 147. And the
yeah,
same thing with the other guy.
yeah. No, Ben was supposed to take this dude out though. Oh shit, Ben was
Yeah,
supposed
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
take this dude out, and
Yep.
he wasn't. Like he was having so much trouble, bro. I mean, he did his thing, but it's like, damn, dude. Like y like what sucks is that you're gonna say that like. I'm pretty sure that in his mind he's like, I gave it all I got, and I still can't knock this dude out. Like in his mind he did, but it's just he's just not moving correctly. Like he's got the spirit, he's got the the moxie and all this stuff to like and the confidence to like really knock dudes out, and he shows it when he talks, but it's like, man, like your actions got to show it. Like you got to like think smarter, when because he has a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of confidence, but it's like, man, like at a certain point, man, you're gonna have to learn how to bring your fucking punches back to your face and not get caught. And you just it's just he needs to focus on everything really, like his punching power, his punching placement. It's kind of just all
Hmm.
over the place, like he wants to fight a bigger dude just because it's a bigger target, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
and I think, yeah. So the talk is, obviously, I'm sure that you've been following the news, Drew. There's talk of I think it's all frivolous. I think it's just all talk. Um, Tank Davis calling out Ben. I don't think it'll happen, but of course that means there's an incentive for Connor Benn to come down and weight. We know that he just right after his fight, he called out Mario Barrios. He said he'd love to have that opportunity, and I sent homie Ricky a link to interview that Mario Barrios had in September before he fought Ugas, and he also said that should he overcome Yordenis Ugas, that he would love to even travel to the UK to take on Connor Benn. So those guys have
Oh,
mutual interest in fighting each other.
yeah.
Mario Barrios, El Azteca. Um, so that's a very
You know what
possible fight,
I was
especially after Connor Benn looked this bad against a long laid off fighter with no name recognition as Pistol Pete Dobson.
what would you think about this fight right here? I was thinking about
Mm.
this one. Okay. Elam Paro versus Tank Davis.
Liam Paro versus Tank Davis.
Yeah. Would that be a good fight?
Absolutely.
I think that'd be a great fight in
That'd be a
Australia.
great fight.
But
No
that would be
catchweights, though.
what was that?
No catchweights, though. No rehydration clause.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see if Tank will take that, but no,
Oh, he
I
would.
think that would be a great fight. I mean, you're talking about UK. I mean, shit. Would it make sense to meet him halfway? You know. Um.
What do you mean? You
So
want Liam Paro to come down and weight from
no, no,
under 140,
no,
or?
no. Meet him halfway, like on the in the globe.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though. Look, I don't want to completely discount a possible fight with Tank Davis and any UK fighter, including I mean Connor Benn. I think that's completely far fetched. But remember that Tank Davis was interviewed, and it's been reported on Boxing News 24/7 by James Slater on the 27th of January, current year 2024, the year of our Lord. Um,
Why you keep saying
after,
that?
well, it's the year of our Lord,
It's
unless it's the
scaring me
year of
though.
your Lord.
No, is
He's
it like you? I felt like you making me feel like the world's gonna end this year. Like,
well, according to Alex Jones, it is. But
is that
he
what you
says
mean
that
when? Is that what you mean when you say that?
no, no, no. I just
Oh,
mean
okay.
that anytime that I
You
can
said you said that last year too, right? No.
yeah, I said that the year of
Okay.
our Lord.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just checking.
Oh, just in case, I think what Drew is alluding to is that there was once a time with your interlocutor warped speed thought that the world was gonna end, and in fact, the day that I thought the world was gonna end, I had a manic episode. Um, it had been building for years because ever since I'd been a kid, I've always been following these.
It wasn't that day though.
No, 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 no. They wasn't that day.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell the story on another day because I
Yeah.
don't think I want to sound like a lunatic right now. But let's just say that
You already said you did. I'm kidding.
somewhere on the top of a shelf of my cabinets at home, there is a marijuana blunt uh, with weed that's probably closer to 10 years now. Yeah, 11 years now, 12 years now. Old weed that I rolled for the day that the world was gonna end. And the purpose of this blunt, which is pretty good, and it was one of the a strain that I had grown, which was really a one hitter quitter. Um, what was gonna happen is when we were to supposed to have this uh, uh, shift in the polarity of the Earth and the axis of the Earth, where all of the planets were going to be aligned in a straight line, creating some magnetic force that was going to shift the polarity of our planet and create tsunamis and earthquakes and so forth and so on. The way that we were going to celebrate it, instead of living with fear, is all of our family and friends were just going to get together and enjoy the end of our time by smoking the end of the world blunt. Luckily,
I remember. I
to our
remember the story. The story went like, and the last thing we'll have is love, or
see,
something like that, right?
yeah, the
Yeah.
last thing we will have is love.
Yeah. What?
And
Go ahead. What
Drew,
was it?
I
Subject.
still have that blunt. So
Oh, really?
look, in fact, I actually thought that I had rescued the world from termination by never having touched that blunt. And I still believe to this day, partially, because now I'm a little more mature now and my brain is working better. But I still think that if we one day smoke that blunt, something perilous might happen.
Hmm.
I still do think that. Well, I'll tell the story about how I rescued the world from utter catastrophe on another life. But let's just say this: we are alive, and we should cherish this moment. Um, but Drew, um, what do you think about the Mario Barrios versus Connor Benn fight? Who do you have that winning? And in fact, I guess I should
Oof.
ask all of our listeners, Mr. Vince Vargas, El Pachuco, Larry Liston, Sports Archives, Mexican Boxing #1. Anybody's out there who wants to provide their opinion, who do you guys have on that fight? Connor Benn or Mario Barrios? I would have to go Mario Barrios.
Bro, I agree. I'm gonna have to go with Connor. Connor. I'm gonna have to go with
Conman.
Nah, no, no. I'm gonna have to go with Barrios, bro. Um,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
good.
Barrios is more disciplined. I think he throws more punches in bunches. I think he's faced tougher opposition, or I mean, not tough. I want to say tougher, because I think if yeah, no tougher, because he fought Tank and he Thurman. I was trying to refer to the to Thurman. Thurman isn't really as like skill wise. He's skilled, but he doesn't. he does one thing great, and it's that right that he has. It's
Hmm.
pretty devastating, and he's gotten punched by that, and he's also gotten punched by Tank. So I don't think this dude's scared of much. I think if I was Mario Barrios, I'd be feeling really confident because of who I fought in and stepped in the ring with, and that should carry in his career a long way because telling you, man, that that uh Tank having Mario Barrios in his resume is like it's shining like a light, bro. Like it's shining like a star, bro. Like it's aging well, So Barrios is doing his thing, and he's actually growing as a fighter. And I think Connor
Hmm.
is he's from a different country, man. They got a different mindset. Like I think Barrios does his game for a different reason. I like his attitude in general. Um, just the way he comes off. He's like really like humbled, and Connor. I mean, he talks his shit. I have nothing against him, but I think it's all mind, man. It's all in the mind. I think just everything that leads up to the fight, Barrios just does really good, man, and he does things. Um, I was gonna say authentically, but that I'm not trying to say Connor cheats anymore because he's
Whoa,
clean
whoa,
now.
whoa! Wait, actually,
He's clean.
actually, I think we are being quite respectful of Connor
Yeah,
Benn, and we are circumventing the big elephant in the room. Let me.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Because he's
We
he's
know.
he because he's been saying all the right things, and I'm like, well, this guy's actually a likable dude. Like
Well,
I
let's
have
just
I've
drop this bomb
grown
already, Drew.
respect. Go ahead.
Let's just drop the bomb. About 2 years ago to the date,
Oh,
Connor Benn tested positive
awesome,
for
bro.
something called clomiphene. Um, Not too sure
Egg,
what it is. Some kind of a
exactly.
performance enhancement drug. He was penalized from the British Board of Boxing and Controls (BBBOC). Um, he was laid off. Connor Benn went through a rut of depression. He wanted to kill himself. Um, he was completely devastated, and he was in a year and a half layoff, a 17-month layoff, before he ended up fighting last year around September. And he, after being cleared to fight, well, not in the UK, but being cleared by most other countries, including the United States, he had his first fight outside of the UK and fought in Florida. He had a not his best performance out. He still won, but he struggled against some guy. Can't remember his name. Similarly, this time he fought in the United States because he still can't go back to the UK. His ruling will take place at the end of February to see if the BBBOC is going to allow him to fight again in the United Kingdom. But until then, he's been fighting twice in the United States of America. Okay, he does not have the fan base. Okay, we know that he doesn't have all the people cheering him on and that kind of power that only comes from having support of your fans. He doesn't have that. So he comes over here and has two fights in the United States, and he's unable to take out all of these fighters, even though Drew, even though Connor's Benn career is not too shabby, right? I mean, when you look at Connor Benn, he has fought some pretty good names, right? He's fought in it. Chris Van Heerden, knocked him out. Chris Algieri, a very good fight. Adrian Granados, he figured that guy out. It gave him some problems. Sammy Vargas, and Sebastian Fedora. And like he likes to state, when it comes to Sebastian Fedora, him and Sean Porter fought him.
You know
Sean
who I
Porter
forgot?
boxed him, but Connor Benn basically destroyed him. Sammy Vargas, Errol Spence fought him, but guess what? This guy, well, both of them actually destroyed him. And Adrian Granados, I guess they have a common opponent with him also. He also made Chris Algieri do two, somersaults from being knocked down twice at that fight, similar to how Manny Pacquiao did to Chris Algieri when they fought. So when you look at all of these guys, you're like, okay, he was definitely coming up right after Chris Van Heerden. He gets caught for this performance enhancement drug. Chris Van Heerden basically says he should be castigated and never be allowed to fight again. He feels he was robbed of an opportunity to fight fair and square. Ever since, Chris Van Heerden has taken it back. He's met with Connor Benn. They've become friends, and he says in case that ever happened, that he did take drugs in this fight, he forgives him. But now he's fighting the likes of Rodolfo Orozco in Florida and Peter Dobson in Nevada, and he hasn't knocked those guys out. He hasn't looked dominant. And this is right after he's now what you call a quote unquote clear drug free fighter.
Hmm. How
Drew, let
would?
me ask you something.
Oh, go
Is
ahead.
is Connor Ben hype job now that he does not have something to stimulate him?
Mm. No, because I think I followed his career before all that stuff happened, and I think he was the goods, bro. Like he there's a thing though, like there's a thing like I still think he's good, a good fighter, but there's levels, and I think he's approaching that level that requires you to be at a certain level to pass the level to the main boss. Like I think he's at that crossroads right now where he's finally meeting his match. I think he edged this dude out, and bro, like you gotta understand it. It's so hard to get to that level, and for him to happen to be the son of a legend and to still be at this level, it's like it's pretty. He's pretty damn good, bro. And I think sometimes pride and guts get you the dub, and I just like Connor Benn's approach. When he's fighting, it's just that I'd like him to speak like more truthfully, like and actually like back it up, because I like the way he sounds is just not matching the way he looks to the fullest. I mean, he does have balls though, and he does trade blows, which is his biggest downfall right there. Is not giving a fuck. Because sometimes he just doesn't give a fuck, and it works against him, and he gets caught. So yeah, I don't know if the drugs are like a big reason. I think he's always been this aggressive, bro. Like it's just that's just how they talk shit, bro. Like I think he messed up and now he's clean, and I think he's really doing shit for and he's doing shit for money, but I think he's levels above now. Like he's at this certain level where he has to pass everything with flying colors with as far as like who he is as a person and what he does on his off time. Like now is the time where all that shit is getting tested, and
Mm,
in order to be a champion, you can't just talk it. You gotta really do things behind the scenes, that when people aren't looking, that's what makes you a champion. So I mean, only time will tell, like unless you never know, he can improve. But I mean, with what I seen his last fight, I'm like, damn man, like either one, you're not that committed, or two, you you didn't you just need more knock off some rust. I think he looked good though. Don't get me wrong, he looked good. It was just he needed to take him out.
yeah,
Like it was there. It was there. It's just that it's just I'm like I don't know. Like he just needed to clean up some things. Like he needs to get sharper. So
yeah.
I think I've seen him sharper is the thing. He's
You
been
know,
sharper than this when he first started, and because I remember he had like longer hair. He had like curls and shit, and
and
he
dreads and
acts.
all that, right?
Yeah, he was like that's when he was at his peak, bro. Like I think that shouldn't be his peak though. I think he's still growing. Like he grew a lot from that point, like physically. So I think, and I hope he gets his peak. Because no, he's capable of being like the Kell Brook of the welterweight division, which is still good, but I mean he doesn't beat the elites though. I mean I don't consider Shakur up there like part of the elites, but I think it's pretty much Devin and Tank now.
Yeah.
And what else can I say? That's it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, let me read some of these comments. Mr. Larry Liston and El Pachuco were talking about politics in the sport. And he stated, Mr. Larry Liston, in fact, the homie Ricky highlights this next comment. He states, I consider Ryan Garcia just like the Jonas brothers, another fake Christian pimping out little girls while at the same time indulging in certain occult practices solely for the purpose of fame and money. By the way, check out Ryan's new tattoo on his hand on the Fight Hype interview. Real clever. Had to use the face roller as an excuse to show it off. Haha. So I'm not too sure what Mr. Liston means by or what he's referring to when he says certain occult practices, but I am very intrigued, Mr. Liston. If you would like to expound or elaborate on what those occult practices that Ryan Garcia or even the Jonas Brothers are partaking in, please let me know because I like
This
those
is
kind of mysteries. And of course, El Pachuco tends to agree with him, and he says Ryan is the epitome of cringe, and I don't even think that goes without question. I mean, I don't know if you caught attention to this, Drew, but recall that the gripe that Ryan Garcia had against Bernard Hopkins and especially Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, after he fought Tank Davis and Tank Davis utterly destroyed that guy and knocked him down. Remember that one of the complaints that he had about Golden Boy and Bernard Hopkins is that they did not stand in his corner at the post-fight interview, right? And he went off and he started talking about these guys and everything, and he just basically said that they were betraying him, that they weren't standing there in his corner. And this was okay right after he fought and lost to him. And remember that Golden Boy and everything, they were telling Ryan Garcia he did not have to compromise so much in order to take that fight. They were trying to sway him away from taking on the fight under those conditions because they figured he was setting himself out at a great disadvantage, and he was not going to be able to perform very well. Now, I'm not too sure if you caught on to his remarks recently, but basically, uh, Ryan Garcia admitted that he knew he'd lose to Tank. This is incredible. As reported on Boxing News, just actually as of a couple of days ago, on the 3rd of February 2024, Manuk Kopian quotes Ryan Garcia as saying, for the first time ever in the back room, I said to myself, I'm losing this fight. I knew right in the back room. Nothing is going right. I am so weak. None of my punches are coming off sharp. I'm going to lose this fight. I just said to myself, how am I going to lose this fight? Now, apparently, uh, Ryan Garcia is being interviewed in some kind of a podcast by a founder of this program called Valuetainment, Patrick Ben Bet David, and he's saying that he knew in the back room as he's trying to warm up for this fight that he's about to have with Tank Davis. He tells himself, I lost. Nothing is going right. I feel weak. My punches are not coming off sharp. Now, you have to understand, right? This is exactly what Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, and Bernard Hopkins were warning him about dehydrating, about limiting his rehydration causes, and all of those things. And he goes on, Drew. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I think Mr. Larry Liston is hinting on. He goes on to state, quote unquote, "I'm going to get everything back in blood." Because this is what he wants now. He's asking for the rematch from Tank Davis, right? And he says, I will never let anybody play with me in negotiations ever again. That will never happen, ever. I'm going to get so big that Gervonta has to fight me again. And we're going to do it in the right and fair terms. We're going to do it right, and I'm going to beat him. Even though he did me dirty and they did all these tricks, I'm going to do everything fair. Not a rehydration clause. I'm not going to make him go crazy up in weight. We'll do it at 140 or 147, whatever he wants. But he's never going to play me again. Now, this is exactly what Golden Boy was telling him. And now and remember, he went over there and he told them, you don't know nothing. I'm going to do things my way. You're against me. You're on drugs. Everything that he's stated so far, all of a sudden he's recanting and saying that without even mentioning the fact that Oscar de la Hoya told him that. He's admitting that Oscar de la Hoya was right. What do you think about that?
What's your question?
What do you think about Ryan Garcia admitting that Golden Boy called it right, that he sold his booty when he didn't have to?
Wait, so who sold his booty?
Ryan Garcia, man, come on. Ryan Garcia
What's
sold
that?
his booty to Tank Davis.
Oh, um, ah, um, see, man, we gotta, man, yeah, we just gotta let these guys like just let them talk it out. Like at this point, Ryan's losing the boxing fans, but you gotta know that this he also got a whole other set of fans that he's acknowledging on YouTube and shit like that, and Instagram and shit like that. He's got a different audience that doesn't know boxing. So for him to say that, it definitely like shocked a couple of people, but just the people that are in the sport. I think the people who just watched the video and didn't feel no ways never did the sport, you know. And I think he got a lot of those reactions. He got a lot of people like, wow, he thought he was gonna lose, man. And it's just like, and it goes over their head, but it's a big fucking deal. Like, who says this shit? Who says this type of shit? Like, I'm not even trying to go in on it because I've been learning how to let fighters be. I need to let fighters amount to what they want to be and strive for who want the, who what for who they want to be, and I just feel like it's a different age now, man. It's mind blowing what they're saying now. I don't think you're allowed to say this without without getting hammered on and by the media. Like even
Mhm.
like 5 years ago, you weren't able to say this. Like you said this 5 years ago, it would have been frowned upon. It would have been like, bro, you're gonna lose your opportunity, man. What are you saying? And so I think you can say what you want now just because of this. You got media power now. You got social media power. You put asses in seats. So
Mhm.
yeah, they're gonna look at you a little differently. And yeah, we just gotta let them play out, man. I've been learning how to like keep my mouth shut because they're they're gonna they're gonna come up one way or another, man. As long as they got followers, they're gonna say what the hell they want, bro. And it's only gonna get
Yeah.
crazier. It's only
I
gonna get
guess
crazier.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that when Mr. Larry Liston brings up the fact that that Ryan Garcia is into these dark machinations and occult practices, acting like a fake Christian, which I do agree with. If he's really trying to be so Christian, why don't you just admit that Oscar de la Hoya tried to warn you, and you're admitting that that is exactly what happened, that Oscar de la Hoya
Mm.
was right, and why don't you just apologize to him? Apologize to Oscar de la Hoya. If you're trying to be so forthcoming and honest, be honest with everybody, be honest with yourself, and admit that Oscar de la Hoya and Bernard Hopkins were on your side, trying to protect you from selling your booty and subjecting yourself to a devastating loss, which is exactly what happened to you. And why don't you just stop kissing Mayweather's butt, even though Mayweather just conned you into thinking you were going to get a Rolly Romero fight in the cheap. So yeah, so I think
He's
Ryan Garcia is being definitely deceitful and
mhm.
duplicitous
Yeah, no,
with how
he's
he's moving.
Yeah, he's definitely like changing the game with with how he's acting and with the leverage that he has. It's like man, you have all this leverage and you still talking like this, man. Like
Yeah.
what's like what is like in the Carl Withers words, what is the matter with you? You know,
Yeah, rest
it's
in
like, what is the
peace.
matter with you, bro? Like, bro, like in the moral, like in any level, you don't like even say that. You know, like even if you're at an amateur tournament, like you don't even say that type of shit. Like kids speak like highly of themselves at these tournaments, bro. Like you ever, if you go to like one of these national tournaments, bro, like all these kids are like, "I beat you." You hear them like they sound cocky, bro. Like they don't be talking like that. I know Ryan was a 13. I'll forget how many national champ he is, but bro, like um, you're you're not acting like how you're supposed to be, man. Like you have too much money to be acting this way. And I feel like
Mhm.
the more he controls his own career, the more downhill it goes. I think he's only got mm, two, three more fat paychecks, but it's gonna be enough for him to like retire for the rest of his life. But two,
Oh yeah,
three
boy
more.
can retire now.
Yeah, he can retire now, but you know, two, three more paychecks, and I think he's well off after that. But this is the thing: he can have the worst performance of his life after like whoever with whoever he fights, and he's
Mhm.
gonna get another fat opportunity, and then he's gonna get one more up until people think like, hey, this guy is no good, you know. And
Yeah,
yeah, I think I personally think he's just like he's not just like Tank because Tank is obviously like hard to beat and all this shit, but I'm saying like as far as their commitment to the game,
yeah,
like Tank
yeah.
Tank
They do
has
what they want to do.
yeah, Tank is what, how many fights did he say? 2 to 3 more fights? I feel like that's where Ryan is too. I feel like he's telling himself 2 to 3 more fights. I don't care what people think of me. I think
Oh
people
yeah,
already
yeah,
think he's ridiculous, bro. Like that's the
yeah,
thing, like you know, their mindset isn't like longevity. It's like it's quick, man. Like they're depressed or something, man. Like
yeah,
it's just crazy, man. You can't be saying this type of stuff because I mean it's the Wild West out here, man, and they can really treat you however the fuck they want to treat you. You know,
yeah,
there's no contract to save your ass because in reality, the only thing that's saving you from not from yeah from actually yeah from not getting the paycheck is the people
hmm
who click on your fucking profile. After
hmm
that, if it weren't for the clicks and the views, man, you'd be out of here, man. You'll be
yeah.
in
What's the
rehab.
point, huh? What's the
You'd
point?
Yeah, you'll be in rehab right now
Yeah,
doing absolutely nothing but talking.
yeah.
Like, damn,
Let's
let's
see.
check this dude's head.
Let's read a couple of these messages. I'll try and read them at breakneck speed because that was the message that I just read regarding, Mr. Larry Liston's opinionation that Ryan Garcia's acting like a fake Christian just to pimp out little girls. And he goes on to say, again, I have no problem with it. Brian's a smart guy. He plays the game like everyone else to his benefit. Can't hate on someone who goes through his life and has perfected his brand, whatever, whether fake or real. Yeah, it's working for him. I can't really hate him because guess what? I mean, I guess most of the time, all of us are really doing things to benefit ourselves. We never really look at any other consideration because it's dolo, the world of dog eat dog world. Um, but of course, he goes on and states that Pachuco. Yeah, this one's funny. There's a video of Setback, Ellie Setback talking with Guerrero Senior about the Pachuco kick. I think that's the only Setback video that I like. Yeah, Ellie Setback. He's a little uh butt kissy, but you won't really get anything of substance really with Ellie. Everybody that he interviews is basically a Hall of Famer or pound for pound. It doesn't matter who it is, but yeah, he's just trying to be good with these guys, and I guess it works for him. So I can't complain. That guy, like Mr. Larry Liston says. Can't really complain about a guy because he's using everything to his benefit, and he has his own brand whether it's fake and real. But you know what? I will say this: Robert Guerrero Senior is a cool character, very friendly guy. I like running into him and just saluting him. But next time I see him, I will make sure that I go, "Hey, Mr. Guerrero, you remember this?" And just kick that Pachuco kick just to get a laugh out of that guy. He's a good man. And in fact, Robert Guerrero's son, Robert Guerrero Jr., if I'm not mistaken, homie Ricky has a couple of his fights up, his amateur fights, and I've always thought that Robert Guerrero Jr. will one day have to. My son might one day have to face him because they're around the same weight class. I think Robert has more fights experience. Um, than my son, maybe doubly so. But now they're open fighters, so I think they can fight each other, and likely one day they might have to cross paths. I always tell them, you know what? We've seen the young Guerrero. They're feisty. uh, you're gonna have to step it up or put on that incredible jab that you do, and then just dig in deep so that you can fight that kid one day. But yeah, that's definitely a very good fighter right there, and young Guerrero. I like that guy. And of course, let's just read on a couple of the quick ones. Responding to Ben's success, I had asked if anybody thinks that drugs are responsible for Connor Ben's success, and I'm not too sure anybody answered that right there. But El Pachuco does state that Barrio suffers from the PBC curse of not facing tough competition to sharpen his skills, so he asked that possible fight at 50-50 should Mario Barrios and Connor Benn ever face each other. And of course, El Pachuco appreciates that we even address amateur boxing because it is important to support these fighters when they're young. And yeah, absolutely, El Pachuco. We go to a lot of these amateur events. We always support them. We talk to the guys. We salute them, win or lose. We have to help our community and our future fighters. Continue on the success. And in fact, I just wanted to report that the little city that I reside in, which is Salinas, California, our gym, one of our local gyms, the Rock Boxing Gym in Salinas, California, just barely came back from the Silver Nationals in Kansas City, Missouri. If I'm not mistaken, the Missouri side and not the Kansas side. But two of our fighters took the big prize. And I am happy to report that the two fighters that came back with the wins for that Silver Nationals are both ladies, young, talented ladies from our gym. So congratulations to those young ladies. Mo, what are the girls' names that won nationals? Annabelle, Tank, that's her name, nickname Tank, and Chanclas. Cookie won, and Chancla took second place. Okay, so Chancla, Cookie, and Tank from the Rock Boxing Gym. Salutations and congratulations to those young ladies. They brought back silver, so that means they win because it was the Silver Nationals, and they are you know, I guess the guys, the ladies in this case, that came back triumphant. So good going to Coach Danny Corona from the Rock Boxing Gym, and to Chancla, Cookie, and to Tank. So there you go, Drew. I think we've caught on to all of the topics of the day, and I think, as the homie Ricky Stacy says, you need to learn to save topics for a different day. I guess he's trying to say that we have to shut our trap now because he probably wants to wrap up this live and leave for something for tomorrow. Which, if I'm not mistaken, Drew, I think we're gonna be discussing Tyson Fury. What do you think about that?
Mm,
We're gonna
Tyson
talk about it
Fury.
tomorrow.
Oh yeah. I have like a lot of opinions, and a lot of people are like just overreacting, and in my opinion, or hey, I'm also open to hear the conspiracies. I want to hear the conspiracies. I want to hear the best conspiracy one, like, because honestly,
The
I'm
bigger the better.
impressed. Like, I'm impressed sometimes with conspiracy theories, and there's sometimes like cool if, like, I'm like, damn, that's a, you connected all those dots, like that's a good one, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't believe in like generally stuff like that. I just feel like Shit happens for a reason, you know. But that's just my general rule of thumb right there. Is shit happens for a reason.
Yeah,
I gotta. I feel like there's nothing to lie about in the boxing game. But hey, I can go all day about this, man. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the good thing is, Drew, is that we have a very pessimistic listener of ours, Mr. Larry Liston, that has presented to us a few, I would say, ideas closer to the conspiracy side. And I like you, I try to sometimes take things for what they are without trying to dig too deep into excuses
hmm
sometimes, as you stated, as
I
happens.
rather.
But I will say this: I
hmm
love a good conspiracy. In fact, I would say about 80% of my life has been devoted to believing that things are not necessarily what we think they are, and that there is shenanigans, chicanery, machinations at the highest of levels, and not only in our everyday lives, but in geopolitics, politics, and everything that has to do with social control. So I
hmm
absolutely do. And in fact, here's the thing: this is what a big old conspiracy nut I am. My favorite comic book currently that I'm reading is called The Department of Truth, printed by Image Comics, and it's all about conspiracies. In fact, I just picked up the most recent graphic novel about a week ago, and I'm about to crack it open. So hopefully, our very astute, intelligent, and suspicious listeners join us for tomorrow's talk, where we will be discussing Fury and the Vijay that's formed about his brow.
Yeah,
Drew.
no. Yeah, no, just conspiracies are. I rather just. I'm more opportunistic now. I worry. I don't worry about like the only time I get kind of like in that sense because I've been in the stock market, right? And I get opportunistic. Um I get conspiracy theories like in the market. I get bullish because of the past and like one of I like finding stuff out like that. So I like
Mhm.
finding opportunity rather than finding how can I say like finding the time to put thought into something like that, like rather find. But I used like I'll listen to it, but I just like I can put pieces in my mind together like that. But man, it's just man, your mind can go wander off places and you'll go hours into it. So I rather put my personal time at least, into some good knowledge, So I still remember your conspiracy theories from this day though, so don't worry about that. So yeah.
So I guess you're not the type of a person that believes Alex Jones and says that there's
No.
chemicals in our water that is making frogs turn gay.
I mean, okay, but the frog, what are the frogs doing to us? What is it doing to your paycheck? Nothing.
No, well, I mean, the frogs are basically just a unit of measure and testing and experimentation, right? Because what Alex Jones
No.
would say is that what a frog does in living in water is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life drinking that water. I mean, what does these chemicals that turn frogs hermaphroditic and gay, what will they do to humans after drinking water for so long? Hey, there's crazier things out there, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, Drew, it's been fun. And any closing words for our listeners? Are you gonna hop on and join us tomorrow's live, or are you
Yeah,
gonna be preoccupied?
I'm gonna try tomorrow.
It's gonna be a hot one.
Yeah, I know. So we'll see. We'll see. More than likely. Yeah, we've been
Okay.
consistent. And hopefully we
Yeah.
can get some videos because I'll get like friend requests from a couple of boxers, and I'm like, man, from my personal account though, and I'm like
Mhm.
wondering because I told Chenma about this, and like I wasn't like tell everyone about it, but I was just like, hey, bro, I'm gonna talk right now, bro. If you're trying to hear my voice, I know you like hearing my voice, and I'll mess around like I'll mess around with him, but he's cool like that, but I, I'm plugged in with him, It's like
Yeah,
it's on some personal shit with him.
yeah.
So we're cool. All right,
Yeah,
man.
no, Drew, if you have anybody that that wants to send this, I guess this applies to everybody. This is an invitation to maybe reach out to the homie Ricky if you guys have local fighters that want to submit their sparring footage so that homie Ricky, who's a great analyst and a great trainer, can break them down, maybe point out some flaws, see what they could work on, or see the potential. If you guys want to see that, or you guys want or have something around that, send it out. If you guys have any other topics of interest, let us know. We're always open to entertain all notions and learn, such as you guys. What else there is besides the stuff that we will address. We are open to any of these things. So one of the things, and I'm not too sure if it should be incumbent on me to discuss about these things, Drew, or maybe the homie Ricky, but I do know one thing. There's people taking it seriously. Uh, that's all that I can say. I don't want to be cryptic, like Teofimo Lopez or Ryan Garcia, but let's just say that we're
Um.
being taken serious. There is growth. There is some opportunities that I don't want to necessarily discuss at this moment because
Mhm.
that's maybe more likely homie Ricky's job to do. But let's just
Mhm.
say that because of these possibilities, we can actually start thinking about doing more than just chatting
Mhm.
on lives. We might be able to
Yeah.
make videos, interview people, and so forth and so on. So that applies to you too, Drew. If
Lem-
you know anybody that wants to send us footage or allow us into their camp or interview, whatever, let them know.
Yeah, and then let me say one more thing. I'm gonna hang up after this.
Yeah.
Um. Uh. Just in case I don't hop on tomorrow, but
Hmm.
I can think of better ways to pull out of a fight than to get to sign up for a big old gash over the top of my right eye. You know. So
Yeah. Occam's
just
razor, I
leave it.
guess.
I can think of a way better excuse. Hit me with something. Throw something at me. Anything. So yeah. That's all I got with that.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All
Well,
right, man.
we'll talk about it tomorrow, Drew.
Yep.
And have a wonderful night, sir.
All right, man. You too, man. Good night.
Good
Peace.
night. And we'll just bid adieu to every one of our listeners. Again, I'll just take this one last minute to thank Mexican Boxing number one for coming over here and making fun of me again. Mr. Vince Vargas, of course, always a pleasure. Welcome, 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 and missed you. Truly, Trey, thank you for hopping on. Mr. Adam Hurley, again, a pleasure seeing you around these YouTube streets. Hop on by whenever you can at Pachuco. Please, this is your home. You know this. So thank you all. The homie Ricky, of course, Drew123. Thank you for being part of this here show. And I do bid you all adieu. Have a wonderful night. Kiss and hug your children. Uh, tell yourself that tomorrow will be a better day than the one you had. And keep your head up. Good night.